Part 26. Transmigration, First Class Immortal Husband. Author, North Wind Blows. Chapter 251. Using the blood pool to transform the body is just the first step. After soaking for enough time to leave the blood pool, iron cages are lowered from above in the underground space. In each cage is a monster that is neither human nor beast. It had a human head, but was on all fours, with sharp teeth protruding, tearing, and roaring toward the outside, hitting the cage constantly. The monk, who seemed indifferent when he was soaking in the blood pool, trembled all over at this time. His eyes showed either madness or despair, and Guyao's hands couldn't stop shaking. Entering it, even if you watch too much, you will become crazy, and there is only one crazy voice left in your mind, that is, quickly destroy this purgatory on earth. Chi Changjai kept his hands in front of Guyao without a trace, but he couldn't stop the roars and screams from entering his ears. At this moment, someone screamed, "Dante monster! I don't want to go in." Guyao turned his head and saw that it was the monk who came with them, who was driven into the cage with a whip to fight the monster. Either the monster died or the monk died, and if the monk died, even the flesh and blood would become the monster's belly. Bitten and swallowed. Chi Changjai frowned slightly and said aloud, "Let them see one day first, and then play tomorrow. At least some psychological preparations, lest these people will be abandoned and can't pay enough." Why did Senior Brother Joe become so kind and gentle? Okay, it's up to Senior Brother Joe. Let me spare them today, and I will keep my eyes wide open and look at me. I want to live. Only by killing monsters can I survive, otherwise I will never want to leave. Here the man with the whip grinned. Li Chengui and the others sat down on the ground, watching this purgatory-like scene in horror and horror. Before they came here, they never knew that there was such a place on the Qinhao continent, and they were also involved in Changxianmen. Chi Changjai didn't pay attention to that guy's ridicule. In fact, the monks who stayed here have been staying in such an environment. How many people can still maintain a normal state of mind? The heart has been twisted and perverted. The brutal fight continued until one of them died, and the strong smell of blood filled the underground space again, making people feel nauseated, but those monks laughed one by one. Another day has passed, and this is where the boring and cruel purgatory scene is repeated every day. From time to time, fresh materials are sent in, and those who can survive will be sent out. However, what they gain is not freedom, but a new round of purgatory. Just when they were about to finish work, the sky above opened again, and a few monks fell in again. Chi Changjai and Guyao went to check people and sent them into cages. The people lying on the ground let out painful groans and groans. Unlike yesterday, today's bodies are all wounded. Some people scolded the above people for finding jobs for them, and making people into this virtue is not for them. Trouble. When they approached and saw the people on the ground, Chi Changjai and Guyao's pupils shrank suddenly, then looked at each other, grabbed the two of them and dragged them towards the cage, locked them together with Li Chengui and the others, and then they went back to their resting place with the others and didn't communicate with others. The two returned to their room, and Guyao was shocked at this time. I should have read it right, the two were Lu Huajing and he. Ying Muking, aren't they disciples of Changxian sect? Chi Changjai shook his head and said, Chiu Shenfei's memory does have Changxianmen's disciples thrown in. Either they were abandoned or some people used their status to attack their opponents and bring people in, but what? Guyao asked. Chi Changjai said, do you know who this Lu Huajing is? There is an ancestor of Yuan Ying behind him, who is very valued by the ancestor of Yuan Ying, but now he is here. Does his ancestor know? And Lu Huajing is in Changxian. The sect has the biggest enemy, the only son of the head of the Changxian sect, Feng Ming, who Ming sees Lu Huajing not pleasing to the eye everywhere, and often targets him. If Lu Huajing had an ancestor of nascent soul, Ming would have died long ago. Guyao's heart sank, So that's what Huo Ming did. The head of Changxian sect is also inseparable from this place. It must be inseparable from the relationship. Even without Lu Huijing's appearance, Qi Changjai knew that the humiliation of these people in Changxianmen could not be hidden from the eyes of Tang Tang's head. That Huo Ming is also a lunatic, similar to the previous Difeng, he actually attacked the descendants of the elder Yuan Ying's bloodline, and he was extremely unscrupulous. Have you thought about what to do? Su Chen in the space asked aloud. Gu Yao and Qi Changjai looked at each other with ruthlessness in their eyes. Qi Changjai coldly said that if they want to do it, they have to be more ruthless, and to be more thorough. Sin, do not live. I know a formation called Heavenly Punishment Formation. Originally, such a formation could not be set up by my ability, but with Xiaoao, it is different. The Heavenly Punishment Formation requires the monks who are in the eye of the formation to transcend the calamity at the same time. Presumably the situation here will make the catastrophe more violent. Su Chen applauded in the space. Heavenly Punishment Formation, I like it. This legendary formation will have a day in the world. Let me see the coming of God's punishment. Many cultivators will know about the Heavenly Punishment Array, but who would want to set up this formation? This formation may make the heavenly tribulation tens of times more violent, and the cultivator who is in the eyes of the formation will never survive, so it is not in order to perish with the enemy, who can't think of it. Moreover, it also needs to be arranged by a thunder cultivator. Gu Yao also knew what he should do, and said, then I will quickly refine the medicinal pills, and pour them into the golden pill. Then the catastrophe will come. Well, let's split up and try to get the big formation out as soon as possible. Qi Changjai turned around and was about to go out to find a suitable array of eyes. Gu Yao was busy calling the person and asked him to bring the cat with him. The cat could give Qi Changjai some air, and Qi Changjai should answer it and put it down in the room. Formation, so that other people can't get in. Gu Yao can make alchemy with peace of mind. Qi Changjai left, and Gu Yao also sank into alchemy, and the elixirs used to form elixirs were basically emptied, but fortunately there were enough spirit grasses in the space for him to make alchemy, otherwise it would be difficult to pour the foundation building into a golden elixir. Moreover, when they were practicing in the western region before, they had harvested many monster beast inner pills. Monster beast inner pills can also be used to make pills. It is more effective than those Tianyuan pills to use inner pills with the strength of golden pills to concoct pills. This method is easy to bring sequelae to the cultivator. After the cultivation base is forced up, it will affect the future cultivation, but now he doesn't need to consider these problems at all. On the contrary, the stronger the energy contained in the medicine pill, the better. Gu Yao only concentrates on refining the pills, so he can help the most. In addition to the pills used to form pills, there are also detoxification pills. The monks who were sent in were all imprisoned and had to be freed from their bodies. Poison. When he came out to have a look at the alchemy, he found that there was no movement outside. Su Chen reminded him that Qi Changjai would come back for a visit, but at that time he concentrated on alchemy and didn't find it, so Qi Changjai went back to his own business. Gu Yao walked down the aisle with the medicine pill, and found that the monks in the next room fell into a deep sleep, and some of them were still smiling, as if they were dreaming. Is this made by the cubs? Su Chen said, it should be. Let these people have a good dream. It happened that Qi Changjai dragged a person over, saw Gu Yao coming out, and said, this is Lu Huijing and Ying Muking. Treat them first, or add a helper. These two people are Gu Yao and Qi Changjai, who have a better impression of the cultivators in Changxianmen, and Yan Yuanjing. Although the heads of Changxianmen are all involved in this matter, it cannot be said that Changxianmen it's all raccoon dogs up and down, and they should all be damned. Gu Yao believes that most people don't know about it. Okay, Gu Yao helped send the two of them into a room, immediately took out the medicinal pills for them to take, and at the same time probed into their internal conditions. Obviously, the people who attacked them were too ruthless. Waste utilization is sent to this place. Cough. Lu Huajing woke up first, his brows still furrowed, because he was still in great pain before he fell into a coma, and as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw a feminine face enlarged in front of him. Who are you? Where? Just after the detoxification, his voice was a little hoarse. Guyao explained, I'll talk about who I am later, but I know who you are. You were sent in by the same sect. Do you know what you were sent in for? It is to use you as materials for refining corpses into living dead people at the mercy of others, and it should be related to your Changxianmen. Many people who do these things here are disciples of Changxianmen. Lu Huijing's face really shows shock and disbelief. The color, struggling, impossible. It is absolutely impossible for Changxianmen to do such a crooked act. You don't need to frame it and slander it. Guyao sneered, then who do you think you were sent in? Let me guess, was it someone from Huoming who did it? Huoming alone has the ability to create such a place. How dare you not violate it? Bring you in and become a living dead? Don't worry, you'll know what I said is true or false when you go out and see it. When he said these words, Yang Muking also woke up, didn't move, but listened quietly. When Guyao finished speaking, he opened his eyes and looked over. Are you an ancient alchemist? Lu Huajing was shocked when he came to save the life of the best pill, and looked at Guyao in disbelief. Could it be that all this is true? If this person is really Guyao, it is absolutely impossible to deceive him with lies. You take me out to see, I want to see with my own eyes. Guyao saw that Lu Huajing was actually shaken, but he was a sect that grew up since he was a child. How could he accept such darkness and unbearableness in the sect for a while? Lu Huajing thought that Huoming's conduct was bad enough, but he didn't. To think that a person can be so evil. Then it's best not to wake up the people here, otherwise none of us will be able to escape, and we need to recover as soon as possible, leaving more strength to kill the enemy. Another person was sent in, it was Li Chengui and the others, and Guyao didn't care about Lu Huajing, so he hurried to save them. Transmigration, First Class Immortal Husband. Author, North Wind Blows. Chapter 252. Heal them first, and the poison will be solved later. Chi Changjai was worried that these people would do bad things. Two of them had already collapsed, and this kind of person would be the first to be eliminated. Just gave Li Chengui a rejuvenation pill. Guyao was about to turn around and leave. Li Chengui suddenly reached out and grabbed the corner of his shirt. Who are you? Are you Lu Hua? Was it Lu Feng just now? Lu Huajing and Yang Muking looked numb. Lu Hua, Lu Feng? Are you two brothers this time? These two people really know how to play, and they can't see the traces of their disguise at all. It's no wonder that the people who secretly look for them have been unsuccessful. Guyao turned his head and saw Li Chengui's hopeful eyes, as if he regarded them as a life-saving straw. Anyway, if he could get out of here, Lu Hua and Lu Feng's identity would probably not be used anymore, so he nodded and said yes. Hiding, whether we can leave here depends on whether the operation can be successful this time, and the wounds will be healed first. Thank you. Li Chengui's whole heart was as if he had suddenly entered a warm water pool from an icy cold cave. He was instantly redeemed, and solemnly thanked Guyao, no matter if I can go out or not, thank you all. The scenes they saw during the day let them know that this place is not a place for people at all. The monks who sent them in are also demons. They would rather die in battle than suffer from this inhuman torture and become a monster that is neither human nor beast. Those monsters are clearly created the day after tomorrow, and it is likely their future destiny. Who can be willing to become such monsters? Then the others will be comforted by you. I'll go to work first. Guyao expressed his intention to Lu Huajing and Yang Muking, hoping that the two would watch. Although Lu Huajing has not recovered from the heavy blow, at any rate, he knew that Guyao and Chi Changjai couldn't be ruined right now. To find out the truth of the whole thing, he had to get out of here first. Guyao walked into the empty underground space. It was a slaughterhouse in the daytime, but now it was used by Chi Changjai to set up the formation. Guyao saw several people sitting cross-legged in the formation, and looked at their eyes. With relief in the madness, is it Chi Changjai who persuaded them to cooperate with the action? Chi Changjai came out and explained, because this place can only be opened from the outside, the people inside can't go out by themselves, so I asked them, there is a chance to destroy this place, maybe I can take revenge on those guys and ask them if they would like to. I don't want to. Guyao understands that these people are willing to take their own lives to take revenge on the enemy, and their situation is not much better, and they may not be able to live long after leaving here. Chi Changjai pointed at the other guys who had their eyes closed but looked excited and addicted, and said, this is a dream that the cat cub gave them. Heavenly robbery. Guyao immediately took out all the medicinal pills he had made and gave them to Chi Changjai. The latter walked into the formation with medicinal pills. Those who were willing to cooperate took the medicinal pills and threw them all without hesitation. In the mouth, take the time to absorb the medicinal pill and then hit the golden pill. The guys who fell into the dream were opened by Chi Changjai and threw the medicinal pill in. They also chewed it, as if they had eaten the magical medicine in the dream. Revealing the color of fluttering and immortal. Go. Chi Changjai took Gu Yuan away from here, and he shot out one after another of spiritual power, and the pattern on the ground was immediately revealed, like thunder snakes swimming around on the ground. The spiritual energy inside was extracted and immediately formed a spiritual mist. Even outside the formation, you can clearly feel that the aura of the people inside is constantly climbing. I don't know how long it took. Guyao and Chi Changjai looked at the sky above, they already felt the layers of pressure from outside the sky, it was the calamity that was brewing. Guyao turned around to give Li Chengui and the others antidote, while Chi Changjai piled up the rest of them and made sure they wouldn't wake up. Lu Huajing and Ying Wei took the initiative to cooperate with healing after they were able to use their spiritual power. With the addition of a top-quality healing pill, the recovery speed was extremely fast. At this time, they came out and looked up in shock. Although their vision could not penetrate, they continued to Tianwei, who is close to him, can still feel it, who is this who is robbing? Who would be robbing in such a place? It is clear that crossing the robbery here is looking for a way to die. Chi Changjai put his hands on his back and said, it's not who, but 18 people at the same time. Only in this way can we smash a hole in this place and completely destroy it. There are only Group A, there are Group B, Group C, and Group D. 18 people cross the robbery at the same time. It was incredible for Lu Huajing and Ying Muking. Lu Huajing had access to a lot of various collections. At this time, an incredible thought appeared, do you want to create a great array of punishment? Guyao said, is there a better way besides this? Lu Huajing and Ying Muking were speechless. The two had already heard from Li Chengui and several others about their daytime experiences. Such places and cultivators should never exist. And in such a place, Lu Huajing also knew that no one would let him leave except himself, because the people here would never let any news leak out, and only dead people could keep secrets. In the sky above the blood-colored forest, one after another robbery clouds continued to gather, and the monks who stayed on the ground finally noticed the strangeness and came out one after another to find out who Jing was in this kind of place. Go out, and it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter. No, the skinny old man also came out, looking at the robbery clouds that still hadn't stopped gathering in the sky, and the ever-increasing power of the heavens, and said, this robbery cloud is not right, it's not the golden core calamity, nor the nascent soul calamity, hurry up people, find it and stop the robbery, otherwise the place will be destroyed by the thunder robbery. The thin old man's sharp voice sounded in the sky above the blood-colored forest, mixed with the heavenly power of Jayun, making the alien beasts and monsters in the depths of the blood-colored forest also restless. The cultivators who lead the team, such as Guyan, dare not ignore it, so they searched around for the target of the robbery cloud, and they found nothing. The thunder light sounded, and the thunder robbery was about to fall soon. It's Group A. It's someone in Group A who is trying to transcend tribulation and attract heaven, someone shouted. Crack. The thunder robbery smashed down faster than other heavenly tribulations, and the sturdy thunder robbery fell from the sky, causing the monks who wanted to do something to the Tian King of Group A to flee in embarrassment. At this time, anyone under the robbery cloud would a person who is regarded as a calamity, will be struck by lightning, such a strong lightning tribulation, it is estimated that he will be split into charcoal. Boom. With just one note, the sky above Group A was split open, and crazy laughter came from below. Ha ha, come on the robbery, come more fiercely, and destroy everything here. Chi Changjai asked Lu Huajing and Ying Muking to throw out the other monks who had been knocked unconscious by him, and let them suffer the first wave of thunderstorms. Lu Huajing and Ying Wei had no heart to bear it at all, so let them use the last bit of value. Well, after these people were thrown out, they were penetrated by lightning tribulation instantly. Some people woke up at the last moment of death, but they were split into ashes before they could figure out what was going on. Chi Changjai looked at Jayun's posture and said to the others, take advantage of the opportunity to get out of Jayun's range by taking advantage of the opportunity to get out of Jayun's range. Jayun is mistaken for the person who will transcend the calamity, the farther away, the better, if you can survive, you can find a way to meet. Brother Lu, thank you for saving your life, take care. Brother Lu, I'd better follow you guys, the more people do, the better. Brother Lu, do you really want to separate? Some people can't wait to find a space to step on the magic weapon and fly out. At this time, of course, it is important to escape for one's own life. It may be too late for 1 minute. It is safest to stay by their side, and there are people like Li Chengui who want to help each other. Chi Changjai didn't care what they thought, but said, the goal of staying together is too big, and it is easy to become a sacrifice to the outside cultivator. Only by spreading out can you increase your chances of survival. A few, each of you cherish it. Chi Changjai said that he rolled up Guyao, and sent another spiritual tactic to the punishment array. The array was brilliant, and the robbery cloud that echoed it was even more surging, and then Chi Changjai's voice passed down below, you can have complaints. Avenged, avenged. So in an instant, several figures flew out from the ground and scattered in all directions, rushing towards where there were many people, and at the same time uttering frantic scolding. Wherever these people who transcended the tribulation went, the tribulation cloud above was taken. At the same time, there were more monks involved in the thunder tribulation. Correspondingly, the thunder tribulation became more and more powerful, and there were still tribulation clouds. Come together. The cultivators who wanted to find Chi Changjai's asylum would not dare to wait any longer at this moment, flee without life, and escape the scope of Jayun. In their eyes, although they might be rescued because of this, Chi Changjai is undoubtedly a lunatic, because it is very likely that they will be saved. It was also sent to the thunder tribulation and got an ending of death. Chi Changjai and Guyao were of course rushing out, while Lu Huajing and Ying Muking followed closely behind them. Although their injuries had not fully recovered, they were still Jindan cultivators. At this time, the outside is completely chaotic, the scope of the robbery is getting bigger, and more people are involved. The 4 people were outside Jayun, and when they saw monks who were not in the same camp, they kicked them into the scope of Jayun. Some people saw their movements and brought people to kill them, not to mention Guyao and Qi in the long night. Lu Huajing and Ying Muking were so full of anger that they had nowhere to express their anger, so they attacked fiercely, not only beating people half to death, but also throwing them into the scope of Jayun. At this moment, the more violent the tribulation, the better for them. Roar roar sounded in the ears of Guyao and Chi Changjai. As soon as the two of them looked at the place where the sound came from, they saw a black figure rushing towards them, the momentum was far above them. The man's face became solemn, this is a monster with the strength of the nascent soul, Xiao be careful. You two are also careful. The latter words are to remind Lu Huajing and Ying Muking. Both of them hope that Lu Huajing will survive. It is best to contact the Yuan Ying ancestor of Lu's family, and then tell the truth about the situation here. They do not believe in Chang Xianmen. The high-level people are all involved, and if you want to deal with Chang Xianmen, it is best to split from the inside first. At this time, Qi Changjai no longer hid his strength, and took out his purple thunder sword and greeted the monster. Lightning flashed all over his body, but it was not conspicuous compared to Jayun. But the group of people who had been looking for who was doing the sabotage noticed it. Among them, the thin old man saw a strong thunder cultivator appear, suspecting that the mess was inseparable from him, and also brought people here. Woo, that kid, dare to spoil the good deeds of the old man wants you to survive, but not to die. Stop him. Gu Yao rushed up, Qi Changjai fighting the monster of nascent soul's strength alone, no more distractions. Lu Huajing and Ying Muking responded to Gu Yao's command, and flanked the other person from left and right. There were a few cultivators who had fled, and when they looked back at this scene, they were horrified. It was not clear where they were. The Lu brothers were hiding their identities. They weren't foundation building cultivators at all. They couldn't get involved in this kind of battle. Well, it's better to run for your own life, so run to the depths of the forest. But they didn't know that there were many alien beasts and monsters living in the blood-colored forest, and the monsters that became restless due to the thunder tribulation became more dangerous. Li Chengui also saw this scene, heartlessly stayed behind, turned back, and joined the battle. Be careful, he is a poisonous ghost and an old monster. He specializes in refining corpses, and then uses poison to refine himself into a poisonous person. When he saw the thin old man clearly, Lu Huajing recognized his identity and loudly reminded Gu Yao and the others, be careful not to get his poison. This person is very famous and notorious. He hasn't appeared on the mainland for a long time. Some people suspect that he has gone crazy and practiced himself to death. He didn't expect Jing to hide here. This proves Gu Yao and the others. The monks who came were all the materials he used to refine the corpse. GG, it turned out to be the boy of Lu's family. It fell into the hands of the old man. No matter if you are the king of heaven, you will stay with the old man. What's wrong with following the old man? The old man can make you live forever. Ah! The guy who hides his head and shrinks his tail, now even the gods have sent a punishment, Ying Muking scolded, Immortal. Become a living dead at the mercy of him. Or would rather die. No, let this guy die first and have his big dream of immortality. Gu Yao threw a whip out of his hand. It was the original blood flood dragon whip. It was said to have been snatched from the hands of the disciples of Chang Xianmen. When the whip was drawn, a cracking sound was heard in the air, and it was violently slapped at the skinny old man. He used lotus heart fire on his body to form a protective shield to prevent poisonous gas from infiltrating his body. Although there was a detoxification pill, Lu Huajing said that this old guy used poison without authorization and might not be able to detoxify all the toxins. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Transmigration, First Class Immortal Husband. Author, North Wind Blows. Chapter 253. The poisonous ghost was filled with poisonous gas, and the cultivator couldn't get close at all. Lu Huajing and Ying Muking's items had been looted when they were delivered. In order to deal with the enemy together, Gu Yao naturally couldn't let them fight empty-handed. However, with a magic talisman and a magic weapon in hand, it is also a bit tricky to face the poisonous gas from the poisonous ghosts and monsters. If you are far away, the attack is like scratching your boots, and it will not cause much damage. The smell makes people dizzy. Cub, come back. Seeing the state of stalemate, Gu Yao called out the cat who didn't know where the waves were in his mind, and the cat immediately returned to Guyao. Guyao needed to borrow his black flames, otherwise he would not be able to solve this old monster. Will give birth to many twists and turns, the lethality of this poisonous old monster is too great. No one noticed that the blood flood whip was covered with a thin layer of black flame. Even if he saw it, he thought it was stained with blackened blood and dirt. When he pulled it away, his consciousness spread out overwhelmingly. No matter how the old monster moved his body, he could catch it one step ahead of time and let the whip fall on him accurately. Snapped. The entire back of the poisonous ghost was hit by the whip, the outermost defense was broken, the vestment inside was torn, the poisonous ghost was furious, and someone dared to hurt him, he would use the most vicious method to concoct the corpse, but then he discovered something was wrong in his body, something ignored his poisonous body and devoured his flesh and strength. After a moment of hesitation, the whip fell on him again, this time leaving a deeper scar on his body. Boy, let you see how powerful the old monster is. The poisonous ghost was so angry that he was beaten repeatedly by a thin-skinned and tender-fleshed boy, which simply damaged his reputation. The corpse made a strange scream, and rushed towards Guyao. Lu Huajing and Ying Muking stopped them before the two corpses could reach them. They saw that Guyao seemed to have a way to resist the poisonous gas, and that the whip was not simple. It could cause damage to the old monster. Haruka concentrates on dealing with the old monster. Guyao swung the whip into a string of whip shadows that were invisible to the naked eye, and densely surrounded the poisonous ghosts and old monsters. Papa. From time to time, the voice of the old monster came out, and the screams of the old monster also sounded, as well as his strange scream, "What is it? I blame me for sparing your life, no, I blame me for accepting you as my apprentice. Come here, kill that kid for the old blame, hurry up." The voice weakened, as if he was struggling at the end, but enough black flames gathered in his body, and suddenly it burned from the body. No black dark flame. At the end of his life, he realized what was attacking him, but it was already too late. Even if he knew earlier, he would not be able to remove the black flames that had penetrated into his body. All the poisonous gas was burned away, and not even the ashes were left, not even the soul. As soon as the old poisonous ghost died, the two corpses he released immediately stopped attacking and stood still. Lu Huajing and Ying Muking were out of breath. Claws and their bodies are also poisonous. At the same time, many monks fell to the ground holding their heads, their bodies twitched non-stop, and after a while, they vomited blood and died. Lu Huajing was startled, "What's going on?" Guyao said, "Those people should have been imprisoned by the old poisonous ghost. When the old poisonous ghost died, the only way to die is the backlash of the ghosts in their minds." Lu Huajing and Ying Muking breathed a sigh of relief, and it would be cheaper for them to die together, but the calamity was really powerful, and the battle on Qi Changjai's side was not over yet, so the three hurried over to help, otherwise it would be bad for the calamity to spread. In this place where the thunder and roaring clouds are scattered, it is actually more conducive to Qi Changjai's play, because there is an active and rich thunder system spiritual power everywhere, so this is his main battlefield, but he is afraid that he will accidentally destroy the thunder. It would be bad if he was brought in, causing his nascent soul tribulation to come early. The monsters that fought with Qi Changjai, even their heads are covered with scales, their limbs are thick, their bodies are covered with hair like steel needles, and their defenses are extremely strong. The monster's skin was torn apart, leaving only one after another sword marks on the monster's body, with black blood oozing out in some places. It's hard to imagine how such a monster was made. "Ziwi, go," Guyao instructed the cat. As long as the defense was broken, the cat could get close to the monster and send the black flame into its body. Seeing Guyao in the long night, he knew what he was going to do. So to restrain the attention of the monster in front, slashed over with a sword, layer upon layer, like a heavy wave hit, like an overwhelming force, mixed with a whistling sound. After the thousands of waves passed, a scar appeared on the monster's forehead, black blood flowed out, the monster was provoked, shouted, the cat cub took the opportunity to jump over, his paws lightly landed on the monster, and stepped on it as if stepping on milk. When the monster was waving its claws to grab it, it jumped away, but the next wave of 1,000 waves came right after, one after another, thunder-type sword light surging like an ocean wave. Gu Yao and Lu Huajing also took the opportunity to stack up the talisman, smashed over. Boom! The monster was blown away by the air wave, and it just landed on the edge of a thunderstorm. The thunderstorm hit the monster like a thunderstorm. Qi Changjai quickly pulled Gu Yuan away. It was the previous 1,000 waves that attracted the energy of the thunderstorm. Come over. Lu Huajing and Yang Muking also hurriedly fled. After a little safety, they looked back and saw that the monster was covered in thunder robbery and rolled on the ground in pain, but they couldn't escape the baptism of the thunderstorm, until it was finally split into coke by the thunder robbery. The two of them trembled when they saw it. If they dragged them into the range of the thunder tribulation, the end would be even more miserable than this monster. After all, the monster has the strength of nascent soul. However, Qi Changjai was able to carry the nascent soul monster head-on. Lu Huajing and Yang Muking were amazed at this level of strength, especially Lu Huajing, who had been thinking about finding Qi Changjai again to compare with the last one, but now he has completely extinguished this idea. A few of him can't beat Qi Changjai alone. When the four of them were far away from the range of the thunder calamity, they also saved one person. It was Li Chengui. One step later, he would be killed in Huangquan. Li Chengui was very grateful and was saved again. The nascent soul monster died in their hands, and the poisonous ghost old monster also died in their hands. No one dared to approach them anymore, so a few people found a high place far away and waited for the end of this thunder tribulation. On the high ground, they saw that the people involved in the thunder tribulation were blasted to ashes, and they watched the ground being blasted away layer after layer. Dirt is thoroughly washed. It wasn't until there was nothing left for the thunderstorm to bombard, the robbery clouds in the sky slowly dissipated, the clouds opened up, and the light fell again. Yang Muking had lingering fears. If the people and monsters involved in the thunder tribulation had not been bombed to death, how long would this thunder calamity last? It caused him to have a psychological shadow on the future nascent soul tribulation. The thunder robbery that filled the sky was absolutely deafening. Now that the thunder robbery has dissipated, there seems to be a rumbling sound of thunder in his ears. Search around to see if there are any survivors. Qi Changjai assigned him, including Lu Huajing, obeyed his arrangement, and began to search without any hesitation, sweeping back and forth over and over with his consciousness. Because there are 4 sky pits for the poisonous ghost old monster, when the calamity fell, the other 3 districts also became chaotic. Some people took the opportunity to escape, and some people took advantage of the chaos to kill the monks who took care of them. It's so chaotic, you can still see a lot of broken limbs on the ground, some are clinging to the enemy and biting their flesh and blood, and they don't let go of their hands until they die. The two die together like this, no matter who is in such a scene. It was very shocking to see. There are also lively monks who asked them to search for them and put them together. They could not figure out their identities for the time being. After working for a long time, they found more than 20 living people. There is no intact piece that can see the sun again, and there is relief in their eyes. As long as they are free from the claws, they don't seem to care if they can leave this place. Fellow Daoist Lu, we found another living one here. He said that he was caught and survived at the hands of the old poisonous ghost. Lu Huajing walked over with one person. Gu Yao and Qi Changjai looked up and saw that the man's bare neck and arms were covered with fine scales, which were obviously made by planing, but that face made the two of them twitch their mouths. As soon as Gu Yao stretched out his hand, the whip flew out of his sleeve, and the man didn't have time to escape, and the whole person was tightly embraced by the whip. Lu Huajing was startled. You know each other? Guyao and Qi Changjai never found Guyan, and they searched several times and couldn't find him. They thought he died under the thunder tribulation, and even the body could not be found, but it turned out that he was still alive, and it was better to live. Why did you arrest me? I was also forced to survive at the hands of the old poisonous ghost, the man struggled hoarsely. Guyao raised the corners of his mouth, pointed at this person, and said to Lu Huajing and Ying looking next to him, "This person is Guyan, maybe you don't know him, but he is your same sect, the outer disciple of Changxian sect, from heaven. Lindala came here, and he is also the right-hand man of the poisonous ghost old monster. This inhuman appearance is not necessarily forced to come out, maybe he is willing, and someone is willing to pay any price for the power." Guyan, who was still struggling just now, calmed down and looked over indifferently. "Who are you? Although the poisonous ghost and old monster unfortunately died in your hands, you can't escape. The pursuit of the entire organization, you better let me go, or you will never escape." Transmigration, First Class Immortal Husband. Author, North Wind Blows. Chapter 254. Lu Huajing and Ying looking read Guyan from different places, and then glanced at Guyao again, revealing a little understanding. Tianlin continent, also surnamed Gu, not to mention Guyao's old acquaintance, even has a blood relationship, and this Guyan was brought into Changxianmen early, and now he is on the opposite side of Guyao. The two of them didn't know what to say, so they just shut up. Hearing Guyan's threat, Guyao chuckled, "Whether we can escape or not, that will be in the future, but now that you have fallen into our hands, it is not up to you to decide whether you live or die. Instead of worrying about others, worry about your own life." Guyan's eyes shot a sinister look. If there is a chance to escape, Guyao believes that this person will definitely do everything possible to kill him and Qi Changjai, and the originally not so broad mind has become more narrow. "Who are you? How do you know my identity? Even if I die, let me be an idiot." At the same time as he said this, Guyan's mind also turned desperately. This person knew him, he was sure knowing this person, who is most likely to match this person's identity among the people he has known in the past. But Guyao was not interested in telling him his identity, so let him die of suffocation. He patted the cat cub's head and said, Cub, solve him, remember not to swallow his soul first." The black cat screamed meow and rushed towards Guyan. The bound Guyan couldn't break free. He watched the cat stomping on him, and a destructive force spread in his body. Guyan felt extremely frightened and exclaimed, "Don't! I'll tell you everything you want to know, save me." "Are you Guyao? Brother Guyao, save me, I'm your brother in the hall, spare me, I have to, no." At the last moment, he desperately called out Guyao's name, knowing that he came from Tianlin continent, and using such a familiar tone to point out his identity, although rationally believed that this was impossible, but at the last moment, in his mind just smothering this name, he came to seek revenge for himself. But Guyao only spit out two words, "It's too late." It was too late. Guyan was the culprit behind the design in the original design. The original body was designed to die by him. How could the mastermind behind him live well? The black flame jumped out of the body and quickly spread to the whole body. When the burning was exhausted, the scream stopped. At the last moment, Guyan knew whose hands he lost his life. What's the use? He didn't want to understand no matter what, why Guyao had the strength to compete with him, how much he paid for his current power, and even turned himself into such an inhuman appearance. However, he still died in the hands of Guyao, and he was not reconciled. But no matter how unwilling it is, a gust of wind blew, and not even ashes were left on the ground. Qi Changjai came over and hugged Guyao's shoulders and took him to the side to rest for a while. No one else would have any opinions. Everyone needs to rest and think about how to go next. Lu Huajing and Ying looked at each other and sighed in unison. Although they thought they might be related by blood, they didn't expect Jing to be cousins. In the end, the expression on Guyan's face made them believe that if there was a chance, Guyan would not be able to let Guyao survive. Guyan finally died, and a stone fell in Guyao's heart, otherwise it would always feel like a time bomb, and I don't know when it will pop up. Far enough away from the others, Guyao leaned on Chi Changjai's shoulder and nodded, "Cub, give us his memory." The cat scorned his master, opened his mouth and spit out a bubble. Chi Changjai reached out and clicked the bubble, and said, "I'll come." Accepting another person's complex memories is also a burden to his soul, and Chi Changjai feels that accepting Guyan's memories should not be a pleasant process for Guyao, so he should do it. In fact, it was completely possible to search Guyan's soul directly before, if there was no restriction in his soul, but in the realm of self-cultivation, the method of soul search is always feared by people, because no one wants to be the object of others' soul search. In addition to hurting the soul, no one is willing to expose their secrets to another person, so if they can search the soul in front of others, they will not do it. Guyao also adjusted his breath on the spot. The previous catastrophe was really amazing. Under the heavy heaven's power, the whole person seemed to be overwhelmed, and he had to fight with the enemy. It was a test for them. If you are done, you will be able to transform, but if you can't get over it, there is only one way to go. After practicing for a while, Guyao opened his eyes again and felt much refreshed, as if his soul had become more solidified. At the same time, Chi Changjai also opened his eyes, sorted out the memories he had absorbed, and reached out his hand. He glanced between Guyao's eyebrows, and some information was sent over. Sure enough, as they had guessed before, Guyan was a relatively high-level test item, and he had obtained a part of the power of monsters. Otherwise, according to Guyan's aptitude, if there were no adventures, it would be impossible for his cultivation base to reach the stage of foundation building. The success of this kind of experiment is of course summed up on the basis of countless failures of low-level test items. He is not the only one who is similar to Guyan. For example, the opponents encountered by the patriarch of the Silver Wolf clan are somewhat related. Guyan took the initiative to join in, and he survived the transformation of his body, so he was used a lot. There are many loose cultivators here that he took people out to catch, and those who dared to betray him became the worst monsters. Guyao's complexion changed and changed. Sure enough, this person is still dead, and if he keeps it, he will definitely become a disaster. In order to climb up, Guyan can do whatever he can, and can abandon everything. The woman he likes, his relatives, parents, or even their own bodies, can climb to that peak one day in order to gain strength. So here is. Chi Changjai nodded, "This is not a place like our Tianlin continent, it is still within the range of Qinhao continent. I noticed this when I passed the teleportation array before. This teleportation array is no better than the one we came from Tianlin continent. Therefore, the space for teleportation is limited. This is actually an island. Outside the Scarlet Forest is the sea area, and there are only two sea areas on Qinhao continent, one is the south side when we came, and the other is the north side. Then we are on the island to the north now. Probably." Su Chen in the space also confirmed their speculation. They did not leave the Qinhao continent, which made Guyao feel relieved. Otherwise, as long as the other party controlled the teleportation array, how would they leave here? Wouldn't he be trapped in this place by the other party? It was even more difficult than the block situation where there was no way to leave the Tianlin continent. Now that this has been confirmed, the two are about to take action, summon Lu Huajing and the others, and briefly explain the situation. There are only two paths in front of them, one is to leave through the teleportation array, and then it is likely to fall into the opponent's hands again. The poisonous ghost and the old monster are dead, and the other party cannot be unaware at all. Maybe the teleportation array is arranged there, just waiting for them to throw themselves into the net. The second is to find a way out from the sea. Maybe you will get lost in the vast sea, or you may encounter unpredictable dangers in the sea, and you will be buried in the sea since then. Destroy the teleportation array. Let's go by sea. Lu Huajing chose this option without hesitation. He would never step into the teleportation array, and the other party could not let him go out alive. Maybe he didn't even have the intention to use the waste. Instead, he killed people directly, and his identity became the biggest obstacle. I'm with my senior brother Yingwei. I got on Lu Huijing's boat completely. There were two people with hesitant expressions on their faces, but Qi Changjai didn't have much time for them to think about it. Come on, let's go to the teleportation array, and when we arrive at the teleportation array, I hope you have already made your choice. Although the cat burned Guyan's body, he didn't burn the storage ring on his body. Qi Changjai took out the flying one magic weapon inside. Monsters don't attack actively, which saves time wasted on the road. Guyan had a route to the teleportation formation in his memory, so they soon arrived at the place where they came from, and saw a row of stone houses and a teleportation formation hidden in a cave below. Qi Changjai didn't control the flying instrument to land, but stayed in mid-air and asked, "Who wants to leave?" We'd better follow the seniors." The two who were hesitant at first, gritted their teeth and made a choice. Although the sea is dangerous, it is better than the end of death, and they are really afraid of falling back to the previous one. In the end, it will become a monster that is not human or ghost. Then let's do it. Qi Changjai attacked directly from above, and the sword Qi fell on the top of the cave, splitting the stones outside the cave to pieces, and the thunder spirit power shot down on it. After a while, the formation protecting the teleportation formation became shaky. Lu Huajing and the others also attacked together, manipulating the spiritual tool to strike down hard. As if the glass was broken, the protective cover finally collapsed, and another thunderbolt fell directly on the teleportation array, and one corner was instantly smashed into pieces. Guyao has been watching the changes in the teleportation array. I was worried that it was a step late, and someone from the other party has already come over. Now the teleportation array is completely destroyed, I can finally take a breath. Lu Huajing and Yingmuking also breathed a sigh of relief. That's good, fortunately the action is fast, someone might come over if it's a step later. The people sent here will definitely not be lower than Yuan Ying, and they may not be able to fight. Qi Changjai shot again and destroyed all the stone houses on the other side. Li Chengui and the others didn't see the fame before. During the process of destroying the stone house, they found that black smoke was coming from below, and their faces suddenly became ugly. No wonder they were in the stone house before. When they were resting in the room, they were easily caught. They stayed in the stone house as if they were immersed in poisonous gas. A month later, Guyao and his party are still drifting on the sea. On the Qinhao continent, some monks call this place the North Sea, and some monks call it the Sea of Ghosts, because fog will rise from time to time in the sea area, and in the fog-shrouded area, everyone will lose their way, and the fog seems to be there. There are also ghostly voices, which will disturb the spirits of monks, so some people call this fog ghost fog. At first, Guyao and Qi Changjai didn't know this when they went to sea, and some cultivators didn't even think of it. After they were drifting on the sea for a while, the sea suddenly became foggy one night, and someone screamed and shouted the word ghost fog. Only after Lu Huajing and Yingmuking's explanations did they understand what was going on. Not to mention the others, Lu Huajing and Yingmuking also felt like their foreheads were sliding down a black line. They had been in Qinhao continent for a while, right? They didn't know the environment on the continent first? Fortunately, the first time we met, the ghost fog only lasted for one night, and it dissipated the next day. However, when the sun was shining the next day, they found that the boat they were on had drifted to somewhere, anyway. They are no longer where they stayed last night, so even if there is no ghost fog, they are also lost. When they first left the Scarlet Forest, they insisted on driving in one direction, thinking that one day they would see the land, but now it is good, maybe they are going back. The sea boat was still moving forward. Guyao and Chi Changjai stood on the bow and looked at the sea. From time to time, sea beasts jumped out of the water. Fortunately, they didn't encounter any too powerful sea beasts. Otherwise, the sea boat might not hold on. Said to be a sea ship, in fact, it is a transformation of the flying instrument. It is driven by wind and water at sea. The hurricane is serious in the sky. Unless it is a seabird that has adapted early, it is better to drive on the sea honestly. I noticed this when I passed the teleportation array. This teleportation array is no bigger than the one we came from the Tianlin continent, so the distance spanned by the teleportation is limited. This is actually an island. Outside the Scarlet Forest is the sea area, and there are only two sea areas on Qinhao continent, one is the south side when we came, and the other is the north side. Then we are on the island to the north now. Probably. Su Chen in the space also confirmed their speculation. They did not leave the Qinhao continent, which made Guyao feel relieved. Otherwise, as long as the other party controlled the teleportation array, how would they leave here? Wouldn't he be trapped in this place by the other party? It was even more difficult than the block situation where there was no way to leave the Tianlin continent. Now that this has been confirmed, the two are about to take action, summon Lu Huajing and the others, and briefly explain the situation. There are only two paths in front of them, one is to leave through the teleportation array, and then it is likely to fall into the opponent's hands again. The poisonous ghost and the old monster are dead, and the other party cannot be unaware at all. Maybe the teleportation array is arranged there, just waiting for them to throw themselves into the net. The second is to find a way out from the sea. Maybe you will get lost in the vast sea, or you may encounter unpredictable dangers in the sea, and you will be buried in the sea since then. Destroy the teleportation array, let's go by sea. Lu Huajing chose this option without hesitation. He would never step into the teleportation array, and the other party could not let him go out alive. Maybe he didn't even have the intention to use the waste. Instead, he killed people directly, and his identity became the biggest obstacle. I'm with my senior brother Yinghui. I got on Lu Huajing's boat completely. There were two people with hesitant expressions on their faces, but Chi Changjai didn't have much time for them to think about it. Come on, let's go to the teleportation array, and when we arrive at the teleportation array, I hope you have already made your choice. Although the cat burned Guyan's body, he didn't burn the storage ring on his body. Chi Changjai took out the flying one magic weapon inside. Monsters don't attack actively, which saves time wasted on the road. Guyan had a route to the teleportation formation in his memory, so they soon arrived at the place where they came from, and saw a row of stone houses and a teleportation formation hidden in a cave below. Chi Changjai didn't control the flying instrument to land, but stayed in midair and asked, "Who wants to leave?" We'd better follow the seniors." The two who were hesitant at first, gritted their teeth and made a choice. Although the sea is dangerous, it is better than the end of death, and they are really afraid of falling back to the previous one. In the end, it will become a monster that is not human or ghost. Then let's do it. Chi Changjai attacked directly from above, and the sword Chi fell on the top of the cave, splitting the stones outside the cave to pieces, and the thunder spirit power shot down on it. After a while, the formation protecting the teleportation formation became shaky. Lu Huajing and the others also attacked together, manipulating the spiritual tool to strike down hard. As if the glass was broken, the protective cover finally collapsed, and another thunderbolt fell directly on the teleportation array, and one corner was instantly smashed into pieces. Guyao has been watching the changes in the teleportation array. I was worried that it was a step late, and someone from the other party has already come over. Now the teleportation array is completely destroyed, I can finally take a breath. Lu Huajing and Yingmuking also breathed a sigh of relief. That's good. Fortunately the action is fast, Someone might come over if it's a step later. The people sent here will definitely not be lower than Yu and Ying, and they may not be able to fight. Chi Changjai shot again and destroyed all the stone houses on the other side. Li Chengui and the others didn't see the fame before. During the process of destroying the stone house, they found that black smoke was coming from below, and their faces suddenly became ugly. No wonder they were in the stone house before. When they were resting in the room, they were easily caught. They stayed in the stone house as if they were immersed in poisonous gas. A month later, Guyao and his party are still drifting on the sea. On the Qinhao continent, some monks call this place the North Sea, and some monks call it the Sea of Ghosts, because fog will rise from time to time in the sea area, and in the fog-shrouded area, everyone will lose their way, and the fog seems to be there. There are also ghostly voices, which will disturb the spirits of monks, so some people call this fog ghost fog. At first, Guyao and Chi Changjai didn't know this when they went to sea, and some cultivators didn't even think of it. After they were drifting on the sea for a while, the sea suddenly became foggy one night, and someone screamed and shouted the word ghost fog. Only after Lu Huajing and Ying Muking's explanations did they understand what was going on. Not to mention the others, Lu Huajing and Ying Muking also felt like their foreheads were sliding down a black line. They had been in Qinhao continent for a while, right? They didn't know the environment on the continent first? Fortunately, the first time we met, the ghost fog only lasted for one night, and it dissipated the next day. However, when the sun was shining the next day, they found that the boat they were on had drifted to somewhere, anyway. They are no longer where they stayed last night, so even if there is no ghost fog, they are also lost. When they first left the Scarlet Forest, they insisted on driving in one direction, thinking that one day they would see the land, but now it is good, maybe they are going back. The sea boat was still moving forward. Guyao and Chi Changjai stood on the bow and looked at the sea. From time to time, sea beasts jumped out of the water. Fortunately, they didn't encounter any too powerful sea beasts. Otherwise, the sea boat might not hold on. Said to be a sea ship, in fact, it is a transformation of the flying instrument. It is driven by wind and water at sea. The hurricane is serious in the sky. Unless it is a seabird that has adapted early, it is better to drive on the sea honestly. It's been more than half a month since the last ghost fog weather, and I don't know when it will appear again. What should I do now? You can't be wandering at sea all the time. The road you have traveled for more than half a month has no overlap with the previous one, so there is no way to know which direction you are driving, and you have not encountered the second sea ship, which is really confusing. Say. Lu Huajing walked out of the cabin. He and Ying Muking counted as one team, while Guyao and Chi Changjai counted as the other team. The two teams would take turns to guard against sea beasts. Now it's Guyao and the others on duty. Are you worried about the appearance of ghost fog? Lu Huajing asked. Chi Changjai glanced at him lightly. Isn't this a nonsense question? What do you think about Giwu? Are we going to be subject to ghost fog all the time? Guyao smiled and said, actually, it's not a completely bad thing. If it weren't for the ghosts and fog that often appeared at sea, it is estimated that someone would have come to the sea to search for our whereabouts, and they would have killed people. Lu Huajing also smiled. This is a joy in suffering. It is certain that the other party must be more familiar with the sea of ghosts and fog than we are, and apart from the island in the forest, they may have other islands, doing the same thing. However, there is no search for us so far, which means that we are not doing whatever we want here. Guyao and Chi Changjai nodded. There is a certain reason. Transmigration, First Class Immortal Husband. Author, North Wind Blows. Chapter 255. Lu Huajing lay on the railing, looked at the sea and said, actually, I have heard many sayings, of which I think the most likely one is that this ghost fog is created by a sea beast in the sea, and this sea beast is the swarms appear. They rely on the released mist to hunt for food and confuse the enemy. Why don't we wait until the next time the ghost fog comes back? Let's try and see if we can find the source, maybe then we can get out of this ghost fog sea already. Okay, Chi-Chang-Jai agreed without even thinking about it. In fact, he also had this intention, so he couldn't just sit and wait for the ghost fog to fill the air and do nothing. Then I'll inform the others, so that they don't panic. Lu Huajing took the initiative to take on this task. If there were only 4 of them, it would be much more convenient to move. Bringing others would be a burden, but you can do it without them. Before they are left on the island and left to fend for themselves, maybe the people behind them will arrive the next moment and slaughter them cleanly. Lu Huajing knew that their main combat power here was Chi-Chang-Jai, so he took on other trivial chores as much as possible, because he and Yingmuking also needed to rely on Guyao and Chi-Chang-Jai, just for the medicinal pills they needed to cultivate at sea, or by Guyao provided that when he returned to the land, how to face the Changxianmen and contact the ancestors was also a headache. He was even more worried about whether the ancestors would be implicated because of his affairs and let the Pomodoro preemptively attack the ancestors and eliminated future troubles. But this place is too far away from Changxianmen, and his messenger can't contact the ancestor at all, otherwise it would be better to remind the ancestor. Lu Huajing told the other cultivators about the deal between him and Chi-Chang-Jai. In addition to the 4 of them, there are more than 20 people including Li Changzhen on the seaboard. Most of them were people who escaped from the Tiankang. The monks Li Chengui rescued by Chi-Chang-Jai and Guyao together escaped when the catastrophe came. Most of them could not be found, and some might still be living in the forest, but they couldn't waste time doing a carpet search. So now there are only 2 left besides Li Chengui. Li Chengui had no objection to Chi-Chang-Jai's decision. Other monks who survived because of Chi-Chang-Jai also regarded him as a savior. This life was taken back, so Chi-Chang-Jai did whatever he said, and the 2 who were with Li Chengui. The monk's eyes flashed, but he didn't say a word. It was only after Lu Huajing left that they found Li Chengui alone and said anxiously, "Fellow Daoist Li, do we really want to act with them? The ghost fog is so dangerous, and we have to go into the sea. Risk. The sea is originally the territory of sea beasts, and if you want to go into the sea in the weather like ghost fog, the danger will increase exponentially. The 2 really don't want to take risks together, but they may not be able to leave a powerful monk like Chi-Chang-Jai." Arrived safely on land, so I made the idea to ask Li Chengui to find Chi-Chang-Jai to discuss it again. There is no need to take risks. Among them, Li Chengui had a better relationship with Chi-Chang-Jai and Guyao, so he urged Li Changzhen to speak. Li Chengui shook his head resolutely. "I won't say it. I will follow them. They won't do unnecessary things. I don't want to spend all my time at sea. If you are not willing to act together, it is better for you to do it yourself." Li Chengui was also very disappointed. At the beginning, after the 13 people were rescued by Chi-Chang-Jai, except for him, everyone else only ran for their lives. The whereabouts are unknown, and it may have been eaten by the monsters in the forest. They were supposed to rely on Chi-Chang-Jai and Guyao to live, and they couldn't do what they could do together, so what was the point of keeping them? I didn't see Lu Huajing and Yingmuking, the 2 Jindan seniors, who rushed ahead if anything happened. Unlike the 2 of them, when they were attacked by sea beasts, they retracted into the cabin. Abandoned destiny. We're not here to survive. Why do we have to find a way to survive? The 2 were extremely angry, but they thought that Li Chengui was with them, but it turned out that they hugged Chi-Chang-Jai and their thighs and didn't care about them. Li Chengui spread his hands and said, "I also want to live, but it's just a different idea from yours. You have to do it yourself." The 2 left in embarrassment. Li Chengui sighed and didn't think there was anything on the ship that could hide from Guyao and the others. Guyao smiled and opened his eyes. He heard all the arguments between Li Chengui and the others. Chi-Chang-Jai can guess what the situation will be without listening to it, and it has been obvious enough along the way. Let them go. If they have a little ambition, they can leave alone. Sheng Min, Do Mi Zhou, they are talking about them. Such people take themselves too seriously. Who said that if they are saved, they must be saved to the end? Gu Yao nodded in agreement. They just met by chance, there is no reason to be worthy of them in the end, but other people, how to arrange it is a problem. What about the other people? Their bodies have been damaged more or less, leaving hidden dangers. It is difficult to return to a normal monk life. They really thanked Qi Changjai and Gu Yao for destroying the purgatory-like place and killing the poisonous ghost and the others, so these days Qi Changjai does whatever he says. Qi Changjai thought for a while and said, let's survive first. If you go back to land, find a place to settle them down, and after the matter at Changxianmen is settled, you can do whatever you want. Qi Changjai's tone was extremely indulgent. He knew that Gu Yao saw their physical condition, and this research habit broke out again. If it wasn't for the situation, Gu Yao would be more willing to find a place and study how to solve their physical hidden dangers. Deal with spirit herbal medicines all day long. Although it is also another sense to treat those people as experimental materials, Gu Yao treats them as living people rather than dead objects. The purpose of research is to restore their original health as much as possible and eliminate hidden dangers in their bodies. Okay, Gu Yao replied happily. Cough, bring me one. Su Chen's voice suddenly sounded in their minds. Qi Changjai said coolly, do you have a habit of eavesdropping on other people's conversations? If this is always the case, he and Xiaoao can't even talk privately? Aha, overheard, you continue to chat. I am in the pill pavilion. Su Chen immediately slipped away with a guilty conscience. Qi Changjai is a black line. This senior is really not like the senior, the appearance is different. Xiaoao, you are sometimes too indulgent to your senior, so you should block it when it's time to block it. As soon as Su Chen heard half of it, he found that he couldn't hear the sound from outside, grinding his teeth. This long night, he shouldn't listen or watch, he would never eavesdrop. No, his dignified predecessors can use it. A steel word? Guyale said, don't be like this. Senior Su taught me a lot of things, and I was a little worried at the beginning, but you have seen what kind of person Senior is. That's why Su Chen has no restrictions, and he has been locked up in the pill pavilion for an unknown number of years, and people are very lively, so Guyao left him to look outside more. Qi Changjai stretched out his hand and pinched Guyao's earlobe, but did not speak. Guyao hurriedly promised that some pictures would definitely not be seen by the seniors. Qi Changjai smiled with satisfaction. Guyao covered his eyes. I didn't expect Qi Changjai to still have such a childish side. When night fell, the sea was foggy again. After Qi Changjai sounded the alarm, everyone came out of the cabin, including the two reluctant monks who also dragged out Li Chengui, but he didn't dare to run in front of Qi Changjai himself. That would completely destroy such a large base. How could Qi Changjai be soft-hearted? After a while, the fog became thicker and thicker, and the visibility was extremely high. What's more, the fog had great restrictions on the consciousness. There was also a whimpering sound in the fog, far and near. It seemed to be not much different from Gakulang Hao. Qi Changjai said, look around first, and tie a rope to your body, so as not to lose your direction. If you find something wrong, come back quickly, and if you find nothing, dive deeper. Okay. Qi Changjai didn't assign them whether they were going to be grouped or not. Which group went to sea, it was considered to observe their performance. Guyao took the jiao whip, tied one end to the railing of the ship, grabbed it with one hand, and jumped into the sea with Qi Changjai. Lu Huajing and Yang Muking also chose a direction to go to sea. Li Chengui did not stay with his two companions, but formed a team with others. If there is any situation, they can help each other. Besides, everyone is going to check around here now. The two monks, one surnamed Ma and the other Zhao, were furious when they saw that Li Chengui ignored them, but when they looked back, they were the only ones left on the sea, and a thought arose in their hearts, that they took the opportunity to control this. The ship left, but the thought disappeared immediately, because the ropes used by many people were actually magic tools or even spiritual tools. When the ship moved, the people below would definitely find it. The two glanced at each other, and chose another time. If others were going to die, they were not willing to follow. They also went into the sea cautiously, and followed behind to fish in the water. The visibility was much higher when they got under the sea. Guyao and Chi Changjai were overjoyed. Sure enough, it was right to go under the sea to find the answer, but underwater, the whimpering sound had a greater impact on their souls. And the sound seems to be coming from all directions. Time can't tell which direction it came from. Look over there. Guyao stretched his finger in a direction. There was a sea beast paddling the sea. Let's go over there and have a look. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Transmigration, First Class Immortal Husband. Author, North Wind Blows. Chapter 256. Chi Changjai and Guyao hid their breath and followed the past. It didn't take long for them to discover something different. The sea beast seemed to be manipulated, but it just swam in that direction mechanically, and there were not only one, but 4 or 5 sea beasts that were not small. All going in one direction. Among these sea beasts, 2 of them will definitely fight if they encounter each other. They are like natural enemies, but at this moment, they have lost their perception of the outside world. The bigger the impact weight, Chi Changjai pulled Guyao to a stop, and then the 2 of them saw a few black shadows rolling towards them. The targets were the sea beasts, and the shadows were entangled in the sea beasts. After a few laps, the sea beasts were still awake and struggled at first, but they soon lost their resistance. In a blink of an eye, only one skin and bones were left of the sea beasts, and the black shadow released them, in the sea water. As if full of food and drink, the general comfortable swimming around. Suddenly, He Ying's head stopped swimming and turned in one direction, making Guyao suddenly horrified, and they were stared at by this thing. Let's go, Chi Changjai shouted, a sword chi wrapped around him and Guyao and flew to the sea quickly. At the same time, the black shadow shot towards them like a water arrow, chasing them until after getting out of the water, Guyao only saw a little black shadow. It was dark and dark green, with mucus and suction cups on it. Guyao and Chi Changjai both got out of the sea, and the black shadow stayed on the sea for a while, as if sensing their direction, and then retreated into the sea after a while. Chi Changjai wiped his face and said, "Tell them all to come up, that thing is too dangerous." Guyao immediately did as Chi Changjai said, and the 2 pulled the ropes tied to the boat separately to let them all return. They all jumped out of the sea, seeing Chi Changjai and Guyao with solemn expressions, guessing what they found before calling them back, and soon they knew what they were facing, and the hull of the sea boat they were in shook. The sea also made waves, and a few people moved a little slower. When they just jumped out of the water, they were followed by the same black things chasing Guyao and the others. Guyao quickly pulled a hand and pulled them back. On board. However, there was still blood red floating on the sea water. Some people died, but there was still one person under the water calling for help, "Save me, save me, save me." Identifying the direction of the cry for help, the blood in Guyao's hand was quicker than the whip, and when he felt something was tied under the water, he pulled it up, but the force of the thing was getting stronger and stronger, and Guyao was getting closer to the opponent. Strength, the strength in the hand keeps increasing. If it wasn't for body training, the other party would have been dragged down long ago. In this way, it was not easy to pull the thing to the sea, but at the same time, I felt that the other party was struggling even more. At this moment, Chi Changjai shot, and a dazzling thunder light pierced the foggy sea. With a bang, something seemed to be broken, and the energy on that end was suddenly relieved, and Guyao almost flew out. Chi, who was still standing beside him, hugged his waist and stabilized his figure. With a snap, something slammed heavily onto the sea-going ship, and jumped a few times, and the sea surface swelled even more, and the sea-going ship was in danger of capsizing at any time. "Launch the ship, hurry up." Immediately someone rushed to control the sea boat immediately floated into the air, and a vortex was about to form below, and the sea boat was about to be dragged into the vortex. This scene shocked everyone. What is in the sea? Something so powerful was unheard of before. After the ship was removed from the vortex's suction, the ship continued to rise, and the danger in the sky was negligible compared to the one in the sea. At this moment, they saw dozens of black shadows suddenly shot out of the surging sea water, attacked the ship, and seemed to want to drag the ship down. "Don't let them touch the ships." With an order, everyone used their methods to fight against these shadows. Chi-Chang's attack was the sharpest, especially on the mist-shrouded sea. Guyao sacrificed his fire attribute spirit sword and poured the lotus heart fire into it. In the spirit sword, control the flying sword to cut off the shadow. What is this? I can't stop slashing. The magic weapon feels slippery and greasy when it touches that thing, so I don't need to focus on it. Come and help, that thing is about to roll up. Launch again, and open the ship's protective cover to the maximum extent. I have heard the wind whistling in my ears. After the protective cover is fully opened, although the hurricane just outside blocked it, the ship was swayed like a boat in the wind. Fortunately, the risk was worth it. The black shadows that emerged from the water were unable to pull up to the same level, and they gathered more and more below, reaching more than 100, and they kept swaying and swaying on the sea. At the same time, the fog around them became thicker. Finally, the danger was temporarily lifted, and many people sat down with a sigh of relief. If they had been reminded a little later when they went to sea, they might have been swallowed by this monster. Just sitting down and getting up quickly, it was far from the time to relax, and before Chi cut something and fell onto the ship, just to see what the monster they had just fought was. Chi and Guyao, who were temporarily freed from the entanglement of shadows, immediately went to see what fell on the ship. Lu Huajing and Ying Wu also came at the same time, and they both gasped when they saw the thing clearly. Li Chengui, who was a step slower, saw the person lying on the ground and said in shock, "It's Dai Ma. Where's Dai Zhao?" No one responded to Li Chengui's words, which meant that the blood that had melted on the sea before belonged to the monk surnamed Zhao. At this moment, the monk surnamed Ma was also in a coma. Lost vitality and relax. After seeing this thing clearly and touching it, Guyao was stunned. Is this seaweed or kelp? Or a variant? Others are also unbelievable. What they have been fighting with is the plants in the sea, not the sea beasts. And when will plants be able to attack their souls? This plant is like going to heaven. Li Chengui dragged the monk surnamed Ma aside and gave him an elixir. Looking at the corroded appearance around him, he knew that the mucus was poisonous, and the corroded wounds on his body were more difficult to recover. Chi used his sword energy to cut the piece of kelp into pieces, and Guyao quickly collected the juice and mucus on his body, as well as some kelp samples, as well as the suction cups on the surface. It has already been cut like this, and no one doubts it anymore. It is a piece of kelp. Needless to say, its body is likely to be a mutated kelp. As for whether it has become a real demon cultivator, it is difficult to say. Although it looks powerful and unparalleled, it seems to be more inclined to instinctive hunting behavior, that is to say, its own intelligence may be very low, which is troublesome. The black shadow below, no, the kelp has been unable to drag the prey, and seems to be angry, stirring up the sea surface with higher waves, until the next day when the sun shines, the sea surface gradually calms down, and the kelp exposed on the sea surface also it was clearer than at night. Although I knew it was a plant, it looked clean. Looking at the mist still lingering on the sea, Lu Huajing said worriedly, "It seems that this so-called ghost fog is made by kelp." Thinking that kelp has been pretending to be a ghost, the monks are too scared to go deep into this place. Lu Huajing was in a very complicated mood in the sea. The fog has not dissipated, it means that the kelp is still lurking below, it seems to be eyeing us. Yang Muking scratched his head and was also very troubled. "Senior brother, do you think the kelp below is a single plant or a group?" Thinking of the dense kelp crowded together, Yang Muking felt that he was about to suffer from a phobia. "I don't know, whether it's a single plant or a group, it's not easy to deal with," Lu Huajing said solemnly. For the time being, there was no way to go, so the sea boat was parked high in the sky, leaving someone to monitor the hurricane situation outside at any time. If something went wrong, hurry to avoid the danger. Chi Changjai said his decision. When the fog weakens, he still has to go to see it. Look, other people don't have to follow this time. It's not necessarily useful to deal with this kind of thing. I'll go to sea with you, Gu Yao emphasized. Okay, Chi Changjai originally planned to go alone, but seeing Gu Yao's insistence, and Gu Yao's combat power was actually not weak, he agreed. Lu Huajing and Yang Muking were a little uncomfortable. Their strength was still weak, and they couldn't help much if they wanted to help. Gu Yao said, "It's not safe outside, there are hurricanes in the sky, and seabirds are attacking, everyone's safety is left to you." Lu Huajing and Yang Muking responded with a smile, and asked them to take care of themselves. If there is any danger, hurry back to the sea, so that they can pick them up. After waiting on the boat for 2 whole days, the fog lightened a little. Chi Changjai and Gu Yao decided not to wait any longer. They took the concealment charm and the water avoidance charm on their bodies and dived into the sea again. Although Lu Huajing and Yang Muking could no longer see their figures in the sky, they could still tell when they entered the sea by carefully paying attention to the changes on the sea surface. "I hope it will be smoother this time. In that case, there may be some adventures," Lu Huajing said. Looking at the sea, the strength of that thing is fully exerted, and it is estimated that it is not weaker than the strength of a monk in the early nascent soul, and the sea is full of its main battlefield, but it can spawn such a mutated kelp. There must be some good things on the bottom of the sea. Lu Huajing felt a little unacceptable every time he talked about kelp. It was Zhu Kelp who tossed them upside down. It was estimated that when he left here and told others, others thought they were joking. In fact, he really wanted to go down and have a look, but he also knew that with such a kelp, his strength was limited, so it was better to stay outside. Yang Muking also yearned for it. "I don't know what a good thing it is, I really hope they can get it." Of course everyone yearns for a treasure, but Yang Muking also has self-knowledge. Even if he knows what kind of treasure it is, he can't get it with his strength. In fact, if you cut some kelp and take it out, you should be able to refine 1 or 2 good spiritual tools, which should be useful for monks with the water and wood attributes. Lu Huajing couldn't help laughing. "Then I hope they can clean up the kelp, then you want a lot of things." The surnamed monk Ma woke up, but he was still unable to lie on the side. The eroded wound on his body would not heal for a while. The surnamed monk Ma gritted his teeth and sent a voice transmission to Li Chengui. "Did you hear? We were all used by them. They went into the sea to find treasures, and left us all on it, and they were reluctant to give me even a healing medicine." Li Changzhen took the time to adjust his breath. Hearing this, he opened his eyes and glanced at him, then closed them again. He had dealt with this fellow Daoist Ma several times before, but he never found out that he had such a temperament. A person who can relate. Daiyu Zhao and Daiyu Ma acted together. Daiyu Zhao died, but he came back alive. He had no way of knowing what happened under the water, but Daiyu Ma was really impatient and muttered to him. Even Senior Lu and the others watched. It is very clear that only Senior Qi and the others have the ability to win the treasure, and they will only die if they go down. Gu Yao is unwilling to waste the healing pill on fellow Daoist Ma. Could it be that he still doesn't understand? Who wants to save a white-eyed wolf? Seeing that Lichengui ignored him, the monk surnamed Malay on the deck and complained more and more. Guyao and Chi Changjai slowly dived down, and they had already figured out the reason for the ghost fog, so they were not too anxious. According to Su Chen's judgment, this kelp with a huge size and special ability should be cultivated in the early nascent soul, but because of its size and its own strange ability, the real lethality is not in the early nascent soul, but it is different from nascent soul. Compared with the nascent soul cultivator, it also has a weakness, that is, it fights by instinct. What is a person? The reason why people become the leader of 100 spirits is because people have wisdom. As long as you look for the weakness of this kelp, it will be much easier to deal with, but at present, the weakness of this kelp is quite difficult to find. With its own divine sense attack, its defense is extremely strong, and it can be close friends or distant attacks. It is a comprehensive killer. This kelp should be manageable, right? Chi Changjai asked Su Chen while diving. Tisk tisk, do you want to conquer? Don't think about it, although this guy's intelligence is low, but his soul power is not weak, unless you break through the Ningying, otherwise don't think about it. Su Chen poured cold water on them. Chi Changjai, this guy, not only wanted to hold other people's nests, but also didn't want to let go of the human body. Chi Changjai didn't think it was different. Yes, we can't, but no matter how powerful this kelp is, it can't make waves in front of senior, right? Su Chen. Suddenly I don't want to talk to this anymore. I was waiting for him here, and I want to be a thug for him and Guyao. Angrily Su Chen wanted to turn his head and leave. Su Chen didn't want to pay attention to the two guys outside, but at this moment, Zi Bao Bao's voice sounded, "Little brother, I can help you find the body of kelp." Transmigration, First Class Immortal Husband. Author, North Wind Blows. Chapter 257. When Su Chen heard this, he felt the urge to vomit blood. He was obviously taking care of this little thing, but he just demolished his stage like a pig teammate. Guyao was overjoyed. Really? That's great, Zi Bao Bao, wait a minute. Guyao patted the water avoidance talisman on his body again, and a bubble formed around him. The sea water in the bubble could not get in, and it could also relieve a certain pressure. After ensuring safety, he carefully sent Zi Bao Bao out and held him in his arms. Inside. Although Zi Bao Bao doesn't like to stay outside, he also likes to watch the scenery outside with Su Chen when he has nothing to do. At this time, he is in Guyao's arms and looks around curiously, but it is all sea water, not even a sea beast. It was all swallowed up by the kelp, so Xiao Xiao regretted it, and dutifully sensed the position of the kelp. Kelp grows on the bottom of the sea and has the property of water and wood, while the purple baby is the body of the wood spirit, and is most sensitive to the breath of the wood attribute, not to mention that the kelp has passed over here, leaving its traces. Follow the traces, it is not difficult to find out where its body is, and the place where the wood aura is thicker is its hiding place. Little brother, go over there, the kelp has gone over there, and there is a strong wood aura there. Guyao couldn't help kissing Zi Bao Bao. Zi Bao Bao was so shy that two purple bamboo leaves were sticking to his face. Chi Changjai twitched the corners of his mouth. He couldn't even be jealous of this little thing. Forget it, just be. He was raised by himself and Xiaoao, and now the family of three go out for treasure hunting together. The further down the dive, the stronger the sea water pressure the two of them endured, and the smaller the air bubbles formed by the water avoidance talisman. The two had to take turns to extract their own spiritual power to stabilize the bubble and resist the pressure, which made the hidden talisman. The effect of the water gradually disappeared, and the sea began to surge, and it seemed that there were sea snakes swimming around in the darkness. At this moment, Zi Bao Bao waved his hand, and a pure wooden aura covered the bubbles, and the sea water around him gradually calmed down, but the sea snake-like kelp still surrounded them, as if he had discovered something novel. Yes, and the kelp arched the bubbles. Chi Changjai and Guyao were tossed by the kelp along with the bubbles, and their hearts were in their throats. "What's the matter?" Guyao asked Su Chen with wide eyes. Su Chen speculated, this kelp may have found a similar species, not a prey. It has mutated and only feeds on the flesh and blood of sea beasts. Instead, it doesn't take the same kind of wood seriously, or you release a little bit of it. Breath test. Guyao twitched the corners of his mouth. Unless he wanted to be entangled by the kelp, he couldn't think of releasing his breath to try, but the air bubbles were getting smaller and smaller, and Chi Changjai had to hug Guyao tightly and endure the upside-down toss. Otherwise, it is very likely that they will be thrown out, and Guyao still has to hold onto Zi Baobao tightly. They are now supported by Zi Baobao. This also proves one thing, that is, the different plant of kelp relies on breath to distinguish whether it is prey or not. It does not have eyes. Look, as for the divine consciousness attack, it has to be said that it is also a kind of innate magical power. In Zi Baobao's words, they are getting closer and closer to the main body, and Guyao is getting more and more nervous, secretly telling Chi Changjai that he is ready to enter the space at any time, and dare not try the kelp's consciousness attack directly. But the two of them are getting more and more difficult, because they are getting lower and lower. The body of the kelp is rooted in the depths of the sea, and these tentacles outside may want to bring this plaything back to the body. Suddenly, the overwhelming kelp outside stopped. Guyao secretly screamed badly, and pulled Chi Changjai and Zi Baobao to flash, and at the last sight, the dense kelp rushed over. The kelp rioted, and it felt like they were drowned in an instant. With a pop-tom sound, the two of them fell to the ground in the space together, still maintaining a hugging posture, and then Su Chen floated over from above, looking at the two who fell to the ground and hugged each other, he laughing. How could Guyao take care of this senior? And Chi Changjai quickly took the medicine pill. The pressure of the sea water was about to crush them, and they had to extract spiritual power to maintain the bubbles that avoided the water, so the meridians in the body were ruptured, and there was blood on the surface of the body. Seeing out, Zi Baobao sent 2 more wood auras into the body of the two of them. The purest wood aura was helpful for the recovery of the injury. After adjusting the breath for a while, the two stood up again, and they continued to deliver spiritual power, which caused the spiritual power to continuously temper various parts of the body, making the body stronger, and even the spiritual power was condensed a little bit. It also seems to be an excellent way to temper the body and spiritual power. Chi Changjai knew the existence of the space, but it was the first time he came in. With the growth of Guyao's cultivation base, the space has now expanded a lot at a glance. There are all kinds of spirit grass and spirit trees, all lush and lush, so people feel good when they see it. There is also a purple bamboo forest in the distance. Needless to say, it is due to Baobao. Most of the spirit grasses growing in it are known to Chi Changjai. Some spirit grasses will definitely lead to looting. Here, Baobao takes care of them very well. It's very nice here, and Senior Lao is taking care of Xiaoao. Chi Changjai politely thanked Su Chen. Su Chen snorted arrogantly, walked to the side and sat down, who told him that he didn't even have a real body. With Zi Baobao there were a lot of things in the space. For example, the current seat is made of purple bamboo. Chengs, if you know, be polite to the senior. It's no wonder that Xiaoao always mentions Su Chen in a helpless tone. This senior is actually self-willed, and said respectfully, yes, Xiaoao and I respect seniors very much. Chi Changjai sat down together and pulled Guyao together, not in a hurry to go out. They leaked their breath before, and there must be riots outside. As soon as they appeared, they would definitely become targets, the kind that would never die, so I'd better go out later. To think of a way to deal with the big guy outside. Guyao brewed the spirit tea and picked the spirit fruit. Zi Baobao sat on the table and nibbled the spirit fruit. As the master of the space, Guyao can sense the situation outside, and said with a blink of an eye, It's still in the midst of turbulence. I don't know if the sea belt is still taking us back to its old nest. Wait a minute, I'll show you the outside. When Guyao came in, Su Chen couldn't see what was going on outside, because he could only see it through Guyao, and it was the first time that Guyao looked out in the space. After 2 experiments, he came out with a water mirror. The water mirror was dark and chaotic, and it was impossible to tell which was sea water and which was kelp. The picture in the water mirror has been shaking, indicating that it is still moving. It took a long time for the picture to calm down, but then Guyao felt that the piece of iron he was in was attacked in various ways. For example, the corrosion of mucus, the invasion of spiritual consciousness, and the vigorous tearing. The two have one soul, Zi Bao Bao, plus a cat cub. Watching the nervous toss of the sea outside, the picture suddenly turned the river to the sea, and they could gradually see the situation in the picture. The eyes were full of dark green, and there was still a little bit of starlight leaking out of the seabed. Suddenly a black hole appeared in front of him, and Guyao stood up abruptly. No, what does the sea zone want to do? Su Chen said speechlessly, this is the mouth of the sea. It wants to swallow you all. I hope the pill pavilion is strong enough to withstand the corrosion of the sea. If you change the plants next to you, of course you won't care about this scene, but this sea zone has already mutated, and every day it feeds on the flesh and blood of sea beasts, so no one dares to ignore its digestive ability, but there is no time to stop it. Just watching the picture turn into a black and opaque channel, I feel the iron sheet is sliding down. Guyao dripped sweat and said, then we are really in the body of the sea. Chi Changjai looked at Su Chen. Next, we may need the help of our predecessors. What does Su Chen want me to do with his legs crossed and his eyebrows raised? Chi Changjai respectfully said, actually, this is an opportunity for us. It was not easy to approach the main body of the sea from the outside, but now it is the closest to it, and it is also the best opportunity to control it, so we need the help of the seniors to suppress it together. Its soul. Su Chen knew that this guy didn't give up and let him help him conquer the sea kelp. He had to say that if he really conquered it, it would mean adding a very strong thug. This sea kelp was stupid and had a big appetite, but he had to admit that it was very difficult. Can fight, seems to be very durable. Chi Changjai continued, after the seniors help Xiaoao to conquer the sea together, Xiaoao's strength will also be improved, so that he can better protect himself and let the seniors worry less. Okay, can't I help? Su Chen hurriedly slammed the table to tell the kid to shut up, and if he let him continue like this, Su Chen would suspect that he would say all this for his Su Chen. Chi Changjai smiled suddenly, cupped his hands in gratitude, and said, thank you, senior, I know that senior loves Xiaoao very much. Su Chen didn't even see this guy. What about the cold swordsman's image? Guyao also hurriedly thanked him. Even with Chi Changjai and Kitty, he might not be able to suppress the sea kelp, and he had to be distracted to resist the corrosion of gastric juice. Before going out, they had to prepare. They didn't dare to underestimate the corrosive power of gastric juice. They kept Zi Bao Bao in the space with layers of defense behind them. Guyao and Chi Changjai left the space together, and the cat squatted on Guyao's shoulder. As soon as he came out, he was surrounded by mucus. After a few breaths of time, the outermost protective cover was corroded. Sure enough, it should not be underestimated. Guyao did not dare to be careless, and together with Chi Changjai, scanned the sole treasure of the sea. In which part? It's in the large dark green crystal above. It's not good, it was discovered by it. Hurry up. As soon as they started talking, the two souls, one cat and one soul, activated at the same time, and rushed towards the dark green crystal. At the critical moment, Su Chen would not hold back, not to mention that he had already agreed, so his soul power rushed to the front. Transmigration, First Class Immortal Husband. Author, North Wind Blows. Chapter 258. Su Chen was in charge of the defense, and the cat cub was in charge of tearing and biting the soul, and then Gu Yao and Qi Changjai shrieked sharply in their minds, stabbing their brains as if they were overturned, and they seemed to collapse in the next moment. What's more terrible is that the corrosive power of gastric juice is too strong, layer after layer of defense collapsed, and a defense bracelet that Gu Yao harvested in his early years only heard a crisp sound and cracked. Quick, Gu Yao, quickly imprint your soul power into the crystal, quick, Su Chen's urging voice sounded. Gu Yao recklessly condensed his consciousness into a needle and rushed in, and through his own soul power seed it was firmly stamped in the dark green crystal, and there was still fierce resistance in the process, but Su Chen, Cat Zizi, and Qi Changjai were there to help. Although it was extremely difficult, it was finally in the depths of the sea. The imprint of Gu Yao's soul power. Gu Yao can clearly feel all kinds of emotions. It is so huge that it can destroy a person's will and persistence in an instant. Compared with this, his own soul is like a small boat swaying in the waves, and there is a possibility of overturning at any time. When the situation around him is over, he just needs to stick to his own heart, and when those ignorant and chaotic emotions can no longer affect him, he gives Dahai an order to send them out. Although he was unwilling, Dada still obeyed Gu Yao's will and sent him and Qi Changjai out. And the vestments were also corroded and damaged in many places, and the protection was greatly reduced. Gu Yao had a thought, and asked the sea to bring them a protective cover. This cover greatly offset the pressure of the sea water. Gu Yao also sat down and seized the time to communicate with the sea, trying to understand the various abilities of the sea as much as possible. The intelligence of the sea is really low, and many things are blurred. It took a lot of time to sort out a little. Since I can remember, it has lived in the sea area. I don't know how long it has lived, and I don't know what it is. At that time, they began to feed on the flesh and blood of sea beasts, which led to a sharp drop in the number of sea beasts in the sea area. Although his intelligence is low, his ability is indeed great. Gu Yao opened his eyes, rubbed his swollen eyebrows, took a King's In pill himself, and then told Qi Changjai and the curious Su Chen, the most fundamental innate ability of the sea. In fact, it is not to create ghost fog and divine consciousness attacks, but to devour. Su Chen floated in front of them, his jaw dropped in shock. It swallowed this ability. It not only swallowed it, but also transformed it into its own ability. Seeing Gu Yao nodding, Su Chen didn't know what to say. He was jealous of a sea belt with low intelligence. Probably the way of heaven is fair and gave it such a special ability, so he never let him awakening wisdom and embarking on the path of demon cultivation, only know to act according to instinct. Gu Yao went on to say, the ability to create ghost fog and divine consciousness attack is actually the ability of two other sea creatures, one is a plant and the other is a sea beast, which may be accompanied by each other. The plants will regularly flow to the sea and release a special kind of fog. The fog will affect the mind, and then the sea beasts that accompany the plants will take the opportunity to hunt the tempted prey. The excrement of the sea beasts is the nutrients for the plants. All the creatures were swallowed up by the sea, and they combined their abilities into one. Su Chen was amazed when he heard it. He can only say that the world is so big, and there are no wonders. He has never heard of plants and sea beasts that grow together. However, I don't know if it is a special product of the sea area or other places, but he didn't let him come across it. Of course, the most peculiar thing is this mutated sea zone. If its intelligence is wide open, I don't know how much it will grow. It should be considered the overlord in the sea area now, even though the monks outside do not know the identity of the overlord. Gu Yao continued, it's not for nothing that the Great Sea Belt mutates. I have received some vague pictures, but I still judge that there is a spiritual meridian under the seabed where the Great Sea Belt is, and it is the spiritual meridian that has been absorbed for many years. The spiritual energy in it will gradually become what it is today, and Gu Yao blinked, a little unbelievable. There seems to be a legacy palace above this spiritual vein. Su Chen also blinked stupidly. This luck came, and he couldn't stop it. If he could put the legacy house in this place, the monk's cultivation base should not be weak during his lifetime. Chi Changjai raised his eyebrows. Let Dada take us to see it, but first send a letter to report safety. Gu Yao nodded, his mind moved, and he stretched out a piece of kelp. This piece of kelp was dark green in color, and seemed to be brilliant and restrained. It looked like a fine dark green jade. Gently touching Gu Yao took a communication talisman, said a few words to the communication talisman, and then sent the sea belt to the sea. In this deep seabed, the message could not be transmitted at all. The kelp rolled up the message and came out of the hood, and then there was a surging underwater. Needless to say, there must be a kelp that ran to the sea. As Gu Yao and the others thought, Lu Huijing and the others on the boat looked at the changes in the sea and were extremely worried about Gu Yao and Chi Changjai. The waves are so high that they sometimes swirl into a vortex, which makes them even more worried. When the sea calmed down a lot later, they thought that the battle was over and Gu Yao and Chi Changjai would come out, but the two of them had not been seen for a long time. Lu Huijing and Yang Muking were both considering whether to go down and explore. Of course, some people were very happy. But it didn't show on the face. That was the rescued monk surnamed Ma, and even thought secretly in his heart that it would be best for the two of them to perish with the strange kelp. At the same time, they had to pay attention to the movement of the hurricane above, and suddenly someone shouted, "That thing came out again." Lu Huijing and Yang Muking ran to the side of the boat and looked down. They saw a kelp emerging from the water, and they quickly said, "Wait, don't rush to attack." "Yeah, why is there only one?" The largest number before reached hundreds. When the kelp emerged from the sea, it sent the message, and then retracted into the sea. Lu Huijing watched in astonishment as a flash of light flew to their ship, and then Gu Yao's voice appeared, "We are all right now, you can go back to the sea without worrying about what happened before, we'll come back later." The big sea zone must have been subdued by the two seniors. "The seniors are really amazing," someone shouted. Originally Chi Changjai rescued them from the devil's lair, and they admired him and Gu Yao very much, so they accepted the matter of subduing the sea zone. Fastest. Lu Huijing and Yang Muking also breathed a sigh of relief. "It should be, we are going back to the sea now, it is really dangerous up there." Listen to Senior Lu's arrangement. The monk surnamed Ma almost chattered a mouthful of teeth. "God is so unfair, how can they get all the benefits? If you haven't come back now, you must have collected the things below, and let them wait on it instead of going to sea together. Isn't it just to take advantage of it? I heard that there are many treasures in the depths of the sea. The deeper the place, the more so, because few cultivators can reach them. I don't know what they have," the cultivator Ma said to himself. But others just glanced at him and walked away. This kind of provocation is too obvious. There are treasures in the seabed. They have been placed there all the time. What are you doing with so much nonsense? Li Chengui frowned. Dai Ma's thoughts and actions became more and more extreme. Lu Huijing and Yang Muking glanced at each other. The surnamed Ma can't be kept, otherwise, he will definitely sell them and Chi Changjai and Gaiao, or even sell them to Changxianmen. Sending the letter, Gu Yao and Chi Changjai stood on a piece of flat and thick kelp, and they were sent somewhere by the kelp. The complexity of the bottom of the sea was not much worse than that on land, especially this place. The bones of many sea beasts are piled up. If they are allowed to come by themselves, even if there is no sea belt occupying this place, they probably will not be able to find the location of the Yufu. After the kelp stopped, Chi Changjai and Gu Yao looked at the mountain in front, which must be here. The two of them reached out their senses and sensed it, and sure enough, there were traces of oro leaking out. Su Chen deduced, according to the memory of the sea, this relic mansion was built on the spiritual veins, but now the spiritual veins should be almost extracted by the sea. This is judged by the food boy of the sea. So the restrictions on the formation outside this ruined mansion have also begun to loosen. If it has not been discovered, maybe one day it will no longer be able to support the pressure of the sea water and collapse, and the ruined mansion inside will also be washed away by the sea water. According to the location of the leakage of spiritual energy, it is easy to find the loose defect of the formation prohibition. The two opened an entrance without much effort. Guyao told the sea to wait outside, and then drilled in together with Chi Changjai. And then temporarily closed the entrance after entering. There is no need for a hood made by the sea to enter the Yufu, because the Yufu is very hard working, and the aura is strong, and the breath is very fresh. Stepping on the sapphire stone slab, Chi Changjai grabbed Guyao's hand and reminded, "Be careful, there is not necessarily no danger in it." Guyao nodded, not being careless. The cat was finally willing to go out for a walk. The environment in the sea was not liked by it before, and it was even a little annoying. With the cat exploring the way, the two avoided many hidden restrictions, and then the two watched. When we arrived at the whole picture of the Yufu, it was still a magnificent palace. The two of them smelled a scent, and the scent alone made their spiritual power start to move, as if they could take a breath and their cultivation would rise. The two looked in the direction of the scent, and saw a spirit fruit tree growing on the spiritual field in the courtyard, with baby-like fruits hanging on the tree. The two looked at each other and their eyes flashed. Joy, congealing infant fruit. Su Chen also floated with them, and he was also happy to see the spirit fruit tree. It's really the congealing baby fruit. Now you don't have to worry about the congealing baby. The growth of congealing infant fruit requires a lot of spiritual energy. Just like the big sea belt, the amount of spiritual energy required is also very important. It can be seen that the scale and quality of the spiritual veins at the bottom of the sea are not low, otherwise they cannot afford this. Two big eaters. Because of this reason, it is difficult to see the appearance of Ningyingguo even on the Qinhao continent. Most of them are in secret realms, because few people come, and coupled with sufficient spiritual energy, such a treasure of heaven and earth can grow, just like now. There is such a spiritual fruit tree growing on a spiritual field in this courtyard. Even if something is planted, the spiritual energy is plundered by the Ningying fruit tree, and other spiritual grasses cannot be planted. Neither of them was in a hurry to put this fruit tree away. No one was here, so there was no need to worry about someone robbing it. Chi Changjai even had an idea that this relic mansion should be able to be refined, so that they could carry it around with them. The fruit tree doesn't need to be moved out, it just continues to grow here. The two walked to the main hall. There were beast-shaped statues squatting on both sides of the main hall gate. When the two stepped up the steps, suddenly the beast roared, and the two beast statues elongated in front of the two of them. There was a creaking sound between the joints, and with the roar, a fire and a water shot towards the two. He had long been prepared for the unexpected Chi Changjai and Guyao, and his body quickly flashed backwards. In the air, he saw a beast statue in the shape of a tiger, and he could even feel a tiger's coercion coming, and the other one was like a monkey. The sound of its stone arm beating on its chest is amazing, and it can be seen that it is extremely powerful. The two retreated, but the two beast eagles stopped attacking. Instead they squatted at the gate and stared at them. If they took a step forward, they would be torn apart. It seems that their mission is to guard the hall at the back. If you want to enter, you must defeat them first, Chi Changjai said, and sacrificed his own purple thunder sword. Puppets, but the coercion they exude is equivalent to the early nascent soul. Guyao also took out his own blood and said, "We will deal with one each." "Okay, I'll deal with that tiger beast," Chi Changjai said, and then swung his sword towards the tiger beast, and handed over the other ape to Guyao with confidence. "There is a favorable condition here, that is, you can quit if you can't beat it, and the opponent will not continue to entangle, so what Chi Changjai sees is that there is no better sparring partner than this." Hoo. The two beast carvings were very angry. The sound of the cannon roaring could shake the dust off the palace. The blood in Guyao's hand rolled up the ape's neck, then the whip, and then trying to overturn it couldn't lift it at all. know what stone is made of, and it is extremely heavy. Guyao rolled his eyes helplessly, seeing the monkey reaching out to grab the blood flood whip, thinking of its strength. The blood flood whip loosened with the thought, it really fell into the monkey's hand, and it was definitely not the one that flew away. Ape, but he is far away. If he couldn't beat him, he left, but when he turned around and continued to fight, Guyao helplessly discovered that his spirit sword could only leave a mark on the monkey's body and could not cause much damage. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Transmigration, First Class Immortal Husband. Author, North Wind Blows. Chapter 259. Guyao found that the 3 spiritual tools in his hand were completely useless in the process of dealing with the stone ape, so he simply put them away and used his fist and body to confront the stone ape. Bang bang bang. After a few breaths of time, Guyao was thrown out and slammed on the sapphire stone board. Guyao got up from the ground, wiped the bloodshot from the corner of his mouth, felt his muscles and bones, and then continued to push towards the stone. The ape pounced, holding on longer each time. After being beaten, he couldn't get up, so he sat down on the spot and adjusted his breath. He took the medicine pill that is suitable for body refining in the unnamed cultivation technique, and penetrated the medicine into every corner of the body. It didn't take long for Chi Changai to deal with the tiger beast. Although it could exert the strength of the nascent soul, it was still a dead thing. The puppet had to be controlled by the internal center. Recently, Chi Changai's swordsmanship has soared. The sword energy penetrated into the interior through the shell, directly destroying the control hub inside, and then stood on the side and watched Guyao use the stone monkey to practice his hands. Although I feel sorry for Guyao's injuries again and again, but in the process of cultivation, if you don't advance, you will retreat. This time he stopped it. Can Guyao be able to give birth to such a brave and enterprising heart next time? So what he has to do is to rescue Guyao when he is in danger. Looking at Guyao's persistence under Stone Monkey's hands for longer and longer, Chi Changai couldn't help but think, Guyao's appearance will be shocked by many people's jaws if outsiders see it. Which alchemist relies on himself like this? Fist and body to compete? When did the alchemist become so sturdy? I don't know how many rounds of fighting, but when Guyao rushed over again, he found that the stone monkey's movements slowed down, and he was knocked to the ground in a few strokes, and then, he didn't move. Guyao was surprised, what's going on? Chi Changai came over to help the person and check his physical condition. It should be that the energy in this puppet's body is exhausted. These 2 puppets have been squatting here for many years. Although they haven't moved, they can press the one placed in the control hub. A piece of spiritual stone, the spiritual energy in it has been dissipating. So that's the case, I said, how could I be defeated so easily? I'm not that good. Guyao laughed twice, shook his body twice, and then simply sat on the futon that Chi Changai took out. He waved at him and said, go in and have a look, I'll adjust your breath here first. Alright, cubs are optimistic about Xiao. Chi Changai left the cat cubs behind, and Su Chen watched. It should be no problem. If there is danger, he can enter the space in time, and then he worriedly set a ban beside Guyao. Then turned around and walked into the hall. The original 2 stone beasts could no longer stop him from entering. As soon as Chi Changai entered, he saw the stone platform in the center of the hall. There was a jade ball above the stone platform. The control center. As long as the jade ball is refined, this palace will become his portable cave. To this step, Chi Changai was not in a hurry. For him, I was lucky to have the Yufu. He just thought that when he and Guyao went out for a walk in the future, he would not have to support the tent if he had this cave. The quality of the portable cave houses sold outside is far inferior to this one. Halfway through, Chi Changai stopped, and he took out the purple thunder sword and let it fly around the stone platform. Suddenly, the thunder light made a big display. There were traps around the stone platform. The purple thunder sword destroyed the restrictions set by force. Those restrictions are not very strong, but they are hidden. Chi-Chang-Ai did not find out by his own consciousness. He let the purple thunder sword go first out of caution, and he found the existence of several restrictions. After sweeping away the ban, Chi-Chang-Ai finally stood in front of the jade ball, circled around the jade ball, and then took several things from the storage ring and placed it in a circle around the jade ball. Extracting his own consciousness, he carefully probed into the inside of the jade ball. At this moment, a group of black shadows rushed over along the wisp of consciousness. The target was Chi-Chang-Ai's sea of consciousness. As long as it occupied Chi-Chang-Ai's sea of consciousness, it could replace it and seize the body outside. Unexpectedly, the rapid movement of the shadow made people caught off guard, but Chi-Chang-Ai outside responded even more swiftly. At the same time, when my mind moved, the things that were placed around the jade ball came into play. A small talisman formation was activated instantly, trapping the black shadow in the center of the talisman formation and letting it collide everywhere, but only zi the sound was issued, but it was unable to break through the shackles of the talisman formation. The shadow seemed to finally recognize the status quo, and stopped moving, revealing its original appearance. Jing was the phantom of a monk, looking like a 40 or 50-year-old, but his eyes were full of hostility. "Boy, if you know the current affairs, let this seat out. Whatever you want, this seat can give you. This palace, as well as the treasures of heaven and earth that the seat has treasured for countless years, can all be given to you, this seat. You can also promise not to take you away, as long as you find a suitable body for this seat." Chi-Chang-Ai backed away, took out the futon and sat down in the center of the hall, with a posture of meditating and practicing. He even thought that the monk's phantom sound was too loud, and a spiritual art blocked the voice, so angry that the phantom's hair was full of hair. "The roots stand up, the stubby is nasty." However, Chi-Chang-Ai is a stance of indifference. The phantom tossed for a long time, and found that he could neither break through nor call the boy outside, so he had to stop, and it has been waiting for so long, so let's wait. Su Chen actually heard the movement in the hall, and as soon as he heard it, he understood that there was still a remnant left in this remnant mansion. As for the cold-hearted guy, he is cautious enough to act, maybe he has suffered a big loss, so he is not fooled at all. Su Chen didn't have the slightest sympathy for the guy who was also the remnant soul, and he didn't rush in to watch it, so he stayed on Gu Yao's side, in case the remnant soul had other calculations, in case he came while he was away. What should I do if I take away Gu Yao? Not everyone can tolerate his soul living in the pill pavilion like Gu Yao. I don't know how long it took. Gu Yao finally finished adjusting his breath. He stood up and moved his muscles and bones. His body was extremely comfortable. There was a feeling that he could knock him down with one punch if he fought against the stone monkey now. Of course, this was only temporary. Illusion, Gu Yao didn't really think he could do it. Su Chen said faintly, "That hole in your family was almost taken away by a remnant soul who lived for an unknown number of years. Are you still having fun outside?" Su Chen's tone is definitely gloating. To be honest, Chi-Chang-Ai's body's aptitude can be said to be unique, and it will be regarded as a treasure in any section. Coke was extremely sad, and fell into Chi-Chang-Ai's hands in a blink of an eye. If he couldn't give up, he had to pay himself. Gu Yao was startled at first, but he didn't expect such a trap to hide inside, but looking at Su Chen's appearance, he raised his eyebrows with determination. "That's definitely not Big Brother yes opponent, and besides, there are seniors and cubs. No matter what, we can't let that remnant succeed." Gu Yao lifted his feet and walked towards the main hall, looking very calm, but his steps were still a little hurried. How could he not worry when he didn't see Chi-Chang-Ai safe and sound? As soon as Gu Yao came in, Chi-Chang-Ai opened his eyes and stood up. Gu Yao smiled. The two came together in front of the jade ball. At this time, the phantom inside had calmed down. Seeing that Guyao was still there, Beijing and Guyao had never been his goal of winning the house. Their aptitude was quite far from Qi Changjai's, but when he saw the cat, especially Su Chen, his face changed suddenly. He didn't expect that there was a cultivator's soul stronger than him beside them at all, and how many years he spent here, the soul is getting weaker and weaker, so it was only when Qi Changjai's consciousness first entered. I couldn't wait to seize the house, it was too long, and no monks would come in by mistake. But when he saw the cat cub or the black nightmare and Su Chen, Su Ying felt hopeless in his heart. He knew that he couldn't win, and that being able to survive was the key, so he quickly lowered his posture. I don't know who this one is. A fellow deist, perhaps we have known each other before. The next one is the elder Kenyu of the Xianxing sect, who can give away all the treasures. I just hope that my fellow deist can let me leave alone. As long as he is left here, he can go to another place to find a person with good spiritual roots to win the house again, and work hard from the beginning. With his experience and vision, he can climb back to the original peak in a few years. As for the few people in front of him, will wait until he has the strength to take revenge. Suingxingzong? Elder Kenyu? Have seniors heard of it? Qi Changjai felt that the name Suingxingzong sounded familiar, so he raised his head and asked Su Chen. I haven't heard of it. What kind of sect of the 3 religions and 9 classes, do I have to know it? Su Chen raised his chin. If Kenyu had a physical body at this moment, he would definitely vomit blood with anger. His sect was actually attacked by this guy. Said to be a sect of the 3 religions and 9 streams. Qi Changjai raised his eyebrows, but he remembered that he had seen records about the Xianxing sect in the sect's collection, but that was an unknown number of years ago, and the Suingxingzong had long since disappeared in time. In the Long River, could it be that Kenyu thought that the Xianxing sect was still the old sect? Let the cubs take care of it. Qi Changjai was not interested in making deals with this old ghost. He wanted to take himself away, and he wanted to return the tiger to the mountain. Cub, go. Qi Changjai opened a back door for the cat and put it into the talisman formation. The cat was very happy, because Guyao didn't let it swallow other souls, and the taste of the soul in front of him should be pretty good, although his cultivation was high before his death, but now he only ends up with a remnant soul, and the cat has a tang on him. Black flames appeared on the ground. Kenyu didn't take the sprat in his eyes at first, but as soon as the black flames came out, he felt the burning of his soul and the loss of his soul power. No, I'm willing to surrender, I really do. Outside, Qi Changjai and Guyao turned a deaf ear, and let the cat chasing after the mouse to chase the remnant soul. The voice of the remnant became weaker and weaker, until it was swallowed by the cat in the end. Belch. Transmigration, First Class Immortal Husband. Author, North Wind Blows. Chapter 260. Su Chen also had weak legs. Black Nightmare is a big killer for souls like them. The most deadly thing is the black flame on its body, which can directly burn the soul. Looking at it again, Su Chen felt that he was its food reserve. Guyao stretched out his hand and squeezed the cat's neck, took it out, and knocked on its small head. In the future, without my permission, you can't devour the soul at will. You know, swallowing the soul is equal to the chance of reincarnation. Argon. The cat cub immediately meows obediently. Although Guyao knew it was pretending, he was helpless. For the time being, there was no way to help Senior Su Chen completely eliminate the shadow brought by the cat cub. Without this remnant soul, Qi Changjai refined the palace very smoothly, and after refining, learning from the previous lessons, he searched the entire palace carefully, not letting go of every small corner. It really allowed him to catch a few places that were easily overlooked, leaving a trace of the old ghost's soul power. If it is not completely eliminated, it is difficult to guarantee when it will run out to rebel. In the next time, Qi Changjai and Guyao worked together to sort out the memories left by the old ghost Kenyu. It turned out that Kang Yu really came from the same continent as Chi Changjai, the Wanluo continent. On the mainland, the most terrible thing is that in order to completely get rid of the enemy, Kang Yu also destroyed the passage between Wanluo continent and Qinhao continent. Chi Changjai said suddenly, "No wonder, I've never heard about Qinhao continent before. There are monks from other continents who are famous, but this Qinhao continent is very unfamiliar, so it makes sense. It's no wonder that Qinhao continent has never heard of all kinds of gods, so, are those behind the forest, that is why." But he quickly vetoed the idea that he gave birth to. If you go on the wrong road, you will go on the wrong road. Even if the original purpose is excusable, but the method and process are wrong, naturally you will not get it. The ideal result, not to mention those who stand at the top, regard the monks at the bottom as butterfly ants, and how many innocent monks die for them. After we go out, maybe we should talk to the patriarch of the Silver Wolf clan. I think he should know the situation in this regard. He may have concealed what he said last time. After all, our cultivation base cannot reach that level. Guyao agreed with Chi Changjai's point of view, that if something is wrong, it is wrong, and no amount of excuses can hide it. Chi Changjai tapped on the table lightly, thinking about many questions in his mind. He suddenly looked at Su Chen, who was a little guilty because of his gaze. He raised his chin and asked, "Is it because I look at me then, Gu? Harika boy is out of this world, planning to empathize and leave love? Boy, I tell you not to have such thoughts, you are too tender, and alchemist Ben is not good at this tender grass." Ft, Guyao sprayed. Chi Changjai sneered softly, and still looked at Su Chen with a half-smile. "Senior Su is so eager to slander me, is he afraid that I will say something bad?" Su Chen snorted, "What good things can you spit out of your mouth?" Chi Changjai continued to laugh and said that I am from Wanluo continent. I have read many collections of Zongmen. There have always been legends about the spiritual world circulating on Wanluo continent. However, it has been many years since the predecessors of the gods have been able to find the way to the spiritual world. Therefore, some god-transforming greats have to find relatively weak space nodes and enter them to try to find a way out. However, I think the possibility of such success is extremely low, and there are many dangers in the space cracks. Even the transforming gods may not be able to protect yourself in it. You must also find out where the spiritual world is. Kang Yu provoked an enemy in Wanluo continent, so she went to Qinhao continent and destroyed the passage. Maybe she will restore the passage when she has the ability in the future, and return to Wanluo continent to find a chance to take revenge. Would you have provoked some enemy family in the spiritual world, and come to the lower realm to hide from trouble? If you want to ensure safety and prevent the enemy family from chasing down, there is only one way. Guyao's eyes narrowed, and Su Chen cried out without thinking, "Fuck! Is Laozi that kind of person?" However, Guyao's ears had a stern look in his ears, and he couldn't help but look at Su Chen in surprise, and being looked at by these two pairs of eyes, even the senior Su Chen couldn't bear it, scratching his ears and scratching his cheeks. "Look at me like this. What do I do? I didn't destroy it on purpose, it was, just, I accidentally caused it, and it wasn't caused by me alone, and the enemy's attack just arrived, which led to the current situation. I wanted to find someone to restore the channel, but I couldn't find anyone for a while." His voice was getting weaker and weaker, and he seemed more and more unconfident. Guyao looked at Su Chen speechlessly, feeling a toothache and a headache. He felt that he had taken on a bad errand. Now Senior Su Chen is by his side, isn't it? Said that he needed him to clean up this mess for the seniors. And the matter on Qinhao continent has not yet been resolved. Guyao had the feeling that a cultivator is also very hard. Layer after layer is like breaking through levels and fighting monsters. He just passed a level and found that he had to continue to fight. I don't know when it will be the end. Quickly rubbing his face and throwing this idea away, in fact, compared to mortals, Monks have a long lifespan, nascent soul is 2000, and God transformation is longer, while mortals have only a mere 100 years of lifespan, which is the interstellar alliance in their previous life. At most, there are only a few hundred. In the final analysis, it is the desire of the monks to become bigger and bigger, to get a long life, and to want a longer life, even the same as the world. Kanyu has a lot of memories that are quite useful. Kanyu's original cultivation base has reached the peak of nascent soul, and he is only one step away from becoming a god, so his cultivation experience in the nascent soul stage is very useful for Chi Changjai. Kanyu was seriously injured when she first arrived in Kinhao continent, and she discovered that the spiritual energy here is much thinner than that of Wanluo continent. After searching around, she found the spiritual veins on the bottom of the sea. At that time, I was thinking of finding a secret place, so as not to be taken advantage of by other monks, but during the healing process, I found that there was a deadly toxin lurking in the body. Injury after injury, until the last death, he can only give up his body and keep his soul, hoping that one day he will seize the body and start from scratch. I have waited for so many years, even the old ghost Kanyu doesn't remember, he knows the changes of the sea outside, but he doesn't take a kelp in his eyes at all, and he doesn't know the sea. Stir up the wind and rain in the sea area, until Guyao and Chi Changjai arrived, and when they met the restrictions outside, Kanyu woke up from her slumber, and couldn't wait to seize the house, but her success failed. If Kanyu hadn't been so arrogant and self-righteous, if he is willing to spend all his energy to understand the situation of the Great Sea Belt, maybe he has already succeeded in winning the house through the Great Sea Belt, and it will not be the turn of Chi Changjai's shot now, but the reality is that he is dead. The two stayed at the bottom of the sea for the time being. Chi Changjai sorted out and absorbed Kanyu's memories, while Guyao continued to subdue the sea. The arm also needs to be constantly broken in. He brought the sea belt into the palace, but obviously the sea belt has no power and does not know how to use it accurately. Everything is based on instinct. As for how to cultivate and use his own power, Guyao still asks Su Chen for advice, and then let's teach the sea belt again. The ignorant sea belt took Guyao a long time to teach it. The sea kelp was finally able to restrain its strength and turned into a dark green whip, and the original whip, ahem, accidentally swallowed it in the process of teaching the sea kelp, and then digested and absorbed it. This kind of swallowing power can only be admired. Fortunately, the blood dragon whip is gone, and there is still a whip made from the sea sash. Guyao named it Moyu. Obviously, the sea sash is very satisfied. Anyone who sees it will think it is a belt made of black jade. Occasionally, Mou will take him around the seabed. It is difficult to reach such a deep seabed if the cultivation base is not enough, so there are many good things, not to mention all kinds of aquatic spiritual grasses, as well as sea beads and other seabed spiritual materials with special functions. Guyao picked up the good ones, and also received several storage rings. He felt that there would always be some use in keeping them. After digesting Kanyu's cultivation experience, Gu remote sensing felt that Chi Changjai's aura had increased a lot, and he was closer to the condensed nascent soul. Chi Changjai put away the palace, turned it into a jade ball and flew into his hand. The appearance of the palace was vaguely visible in the middle of the jade ball, and the few remaining spiritual veins were also collected into the palace to maintain the operation of the palace. The Ningying fruit tree is still growing inside. Taking this opportunity, Chi Changjai and Guyao collected another 2 spiritual veins on the bottom of the sea. If they want to successfully condense the nascent soul, a large amount of spiritual energy supply is indispensable. Of course, the 2 of them have not exhausted the water and fished, which will not affect the sea beasts in this sea. Growth and reproduction. Let's go back to the sea. Chi Changjai clasped Guyao's waist, and the 2 were dragged by Mou to the sea. Now Mou can't see the fierce hunting appearance before. This seabed lacks the sea. The belt is also a lot refreshed, otherwise all the kelp is overwhelming. The scene is really amazing, and it also gives enough room for other sea beasts to grow. As soon as they got out of the water, they found that the ship had experienced several battles, and the people on the ship were taking turns to adjust their breaths, leaving the people on duty. Guyao and the two were discovered as soon as they got out of the water, and they communicated, and the others ran out of the cabin immediately. "You are finally back," Lu Huajing said happily. Guyao glanced at it, and couldn't help but raise his eyebrows, and one person was missing. Lu Huajing said lightly that for some reason, several waves of sea beasts attacked the ship. During a battle, Matthew was unfortunately buried in the mouth of the sea beast. Guyao and Qi Changjai saw that there was no sadness in everyone, so they ignored it. This time they saved their hands, otherwise this person's life would be a hidden danger and would bring them trouble sooner or later. The two gathered everyone. Guyao talked about conquering the sea, and got everyone's congratulations, otherwise it would not be easy to get out of here. What is certain now is that there are more than one island bases such as the Scarlet Forest, and the opponent's madness is beyond our imagination, so what are we going to do next? Do we continue to eradicate those places, or go back to the land to notify other forces? Although the memory of the sea is very vague, but if you have the patience to organize it, you can still find several places like the forest, and use the situation of the Sea of Ghosts to cover up the existence of these places. Lu Huajing has thought about these issues for a long time, and it is impossible to have only one stronghold. He said, "Our previous actions may have been shocking. If we rush over now, we may fall into the other party's trap." Yang Muking touched his chin and said, "Then let's go back to the land? But will people believe what we say? And there is no way to find the mastermind behind the scenes. By then, the real mastermind behind the scenes will be completely pushed out, and maybe they will still be secretive against us." Lu Huajing looked at Guyao and Qi Changjai and said, "We will listen to your arrangement on this matter, we will do whatever you say, but in fact, junior brother Ying and I have no way to go back to Changxianmen, and it is impossible to make public appearances, so if there is anything, the two of you can send us." This is equivalent to surrendering to Guyao and Qi Changjai, and the other people have the same look on their faces. Even if Qi Changjai decides to take them into a place they know is a trap, they will never hesitate. Qi Changjai made a final decision and said, "Then we will go back to the land first to see how the Changxian sect reacts now, and we will try our best to win the monks we can get." "Okay, let's follow Daoist friend Qi." Guyao and Qi Changjai had recovered their appearance at this time, because their original appearance needed spiritual power to support them. After a fight on the bottom of the sea, the spiritual power dissipated long ago, but they returned to the ship and saw them now this appearance. No one is surprised, and no one doubts their identities, which makes Qi Changjai very satisfied. The ship set off again. Lu Huajing came to find Qi Changjai and Guyao, and said frankly, "That monk Matthew was plotted to die by me and other fellow Taoists. This person is evil. If he is brought back to the land, sooner or later, he will be provoked. Please come." Qi Changjai smiled lightly, "You did a good job, Xiaoao, and I didn't plan to take him back. 1 infidelity, 100 infidelity." Lu Huajing breathed a sigh of relief. In fact, the surnamed Ma didn't even think that he was designed to die. He just thought that it was really messy at the time, and no one had time to save him. In fact, he was the only one who didn't know it. He was torn apart by sea beasts. "Then there will be no ghost fog in the sea area in the future?" Lu Huajing asked, thinking about the Great Sea area. Guyao said, "It won't disappear completely, but it won't recover temporarily, it will take time." Guyao explained the symbiosis of a plant in the sea with sea beasts. When he walked around the seabed with Moyu, he discovered that the plants that can create mist are not extinct, but there is a sea zone, and they have nothing. Unable to develop into scale.